In medieval England between 1240 and 1260, thousands of beautiful young women were forced into convents against their will. Their heads shaved in public, bodies wrapped in scratchy black cloth, and spirits broken by torture disguised as devotion. Their crime being born to fathers who couldn't afford dowries. When a powerful man wanted to marry you, but your father was more married to ale than his duties, the convent wasn't salvation. It was a death sentence. Here's what life was really like as a forced medieval nun. So yeah, if these stories work for you, subscribe. And I'm curious, what time is it where you are? Comment below. Last week, someone from Canada said they listened during lunch breaks. Not judging, just wasn't expecting that. All right, medieval nuns tonight. But wait, are you comfortable? No, really, check. Pillows, blankets, the whole deal. Where we're going, you'll want to be settled. Your eyes snap open to darkness. Cold seeps into your bones from the stone floor beneath you. The scrap of old curtain you've been given as a blanket might as well be nothing against the bitter chill that fills the convent at night. Your body aches. Your stomach twists with hunger. Your knees still throb from kneeling on hard stone for 7 hours straight yesterday. This is your life now. The life of a medieval nun in 1240, and you never chose it. Wind howls through the cracks in the stone walls. Rats scurry somewhere nearby, and honestly, you're jealous of them. At least they have fur. At least they can find food. You reach up instinctively to push hair from your face, but your hand finds only the rough stubble of your shaved head. God, you miss your hair. Your hand traces the unfamiliar landscape of your scalp, and you remember the day they took it from you, the day everything changed. You were 15, the second youngest of 5 daughters, born to a father who loved ale more than anything else in this world. Maybe he loved you too, in his own strange way. You'd like to believe that, but love doesn't put food on the table. Love doesn't save enough silver for 5 dowries. And when you're born a girl in medieval England, your options are marriage or the church. That's it. Those are the choices, and both require someone to pay. She's the most beautiful girl in the village, you'd heard people whisper, and it was true. By 15, your long hair had grown thick and lustrous. Your eyes were bright, your skin unmarked by disease or hardship, a miracle in itself, and people noticed, including a general in the king's army. You can still picture his face, the way he looked at you in the market that day. Not like you were meat, exactly, more like you were a horse he was considering buying. Assessing your worth, your breeding potential. He spoke to your father that very afternoon. I want her for my wife, the general announced, standing in your tiny home. His boots probably cost more than everything your family owned. She makes strong sons. She's got good hips. You think about this memory often, lying here in the dark, the way they discussed you. Not a person, but a possession. Still, a general's wife's silk dresses meet with every meal. A warm bed. Your father's face had lit up until the general's family named their price. They want how much for dowry? Your father had sputtered later that night, drunk as usual. Silver enough to sink a ship. Your older sisters were already married off, each dowry smaller than the last. As your father's drinking drained what little money came in, by the time your turn arrived, the barrel was empty. The general's family wouldn't budge on the price. That's when your father heard the whispers. The church was secretly paying families to take their young daughters as nuns. Not much, but enough for several months of ale. The general will find another pretty face, your father said, kissing your forehead that last night in your home. God will take care of you, love, and with this silver, I'll take care of myself. You blink back to the present, to the cold stone beneath you. The moonlight filtering through a narrow window catches on something shiny across the room. A brass tray one of the older nuns uses for washing. You remember seeing your reflection in it that first day, the shock of your sure head, your beauty stolen in one cruel hour. The churchmen had come at dawn. No warning, no chance to say proper goodbyes. They dragged you out into the village square where everyone could see. "Wait, what's happening?" you asked, your voice small as neighbors gathered to watch. The churchman's voice boomed for all to hear. "This girl gives herself to God, but you hadn't given yourself to anyone. You'd been sold." "Hold her," one said, and rough hands gripped your shoulders as another produced a knife. You still remember the sound, the soft, terrible whisper of the blade against your scalp, the weight of your hair as it fell in piles at your feet. Women in the crowd gasped. Some looked away, others stared, their eyes a mixture of pity and relief that it wasn't their daughter. This is happening too fast, you thought. This can't be real. But it was, and it was just the beginning. They shoved you into a rough black cloth that smelled like mold and old sweat. It scratched against your skin, so different from the simple but soft dress you'd worn your whole life. The coarse fabric felt like punishment against your skin, which you'd soon learn was exactly the point. You caught your reflection in that brass tray when they first brought you to the convent. A stranger stared back. Gone was the village beauty. In her place, this creature, pale, sure, scared. When they first showed you to your quarters, you couldn't believe it. No bed, just a corner of a stone room shared with 3 other new initiates. No pillow, no blanket, just that scrap of old curtain. You thought about running that first night. But where would you go? Your father had the church's silver now, likely already spent on ale. The village would turn you away, a disgraced almost nun with a shaved head. No one would marry you now. No one would help you. So you stayed, and you learned the Mother Superior, a woman whose face looked like it had never known a smile, laid out your new life with cold precision. "You wake at 4 with the bell," she said, her voice like stone against stone. "Prayer until sunrise, then work, then more prayer, then more work. You speak only when spoken to. You eat only what and when we tell you." You nodded, numb. "Do you think this is harsh?" she asked, noticing your expression. "No, Mother," you whispered, though of course you did. "Good, because this isn't the harshness." Her thin lips curved into something almost like a smile. "This is the mercy." You'd learn she was right about that. These were the easy rules, the ones they told you up front. What they didn't mention was how senior nuns would kick you awake if the bell didn't rouse you. How they'd withhold food for minor infractions, like looking up during prayer. How your knees would split open from kneeling on stone for hours. Your first real shock came that very first day after the head shaving, after being dressed in your new rough clothes, after being shown your bare corner of stone floor. You thought at least there would be some spiritual introduction, some prayers or hymns or whatever it was nuns did. Instead, the priest shoved a stiff brush into your hands. "Oh, scrub the entire church floor by tonight," he ordered, gesturing to the vast nave stretching before you. Endless stone slabs. God sees your effort. Don't disappoint him. You stared at the massive space, the cold stone stretching farther than your family's entire home. All of it, by myself. The slap came so quickly you didn't see it coming. Your cheeks stung as the priest's voice lowered to a growl. Questioning is pride. Pride is sin. Begin now, so you did. You scrubbed until your back screamed in agony, until your hands blistered and then bled, until your knees were raw against the stone. Hours passed. The sun moved across the windows. Your stomach growled. You hadn't eaten since the previous night at home. When darkness fell, you finally finished, your body trembling with exhaustion. You could barely stand. The priest returned, walking slowly across your freshly scrubbed floor, inspecting it with cold eyes. He stopped, pointed to a corner far from any light source. You missed a spot. You squinted in the darkness. I don't see another slap harder this time. Amateur work, he said flatly. Do better next time. Wake at 4 tomorrow morning. No excuses. You collapsed onto your stone corner that night, too exhausted even to cry. Your body throbbed with pain. Your hands bled onto the rough black cloth they'd given you to wear. Is it always like this? You whispered to one of the other new girls, sharing your quarters. Her eyes, hollow already, though she'd only been there 2 weeks longer than you, told you everything. This is the rule, she whispered back. And there are worse ones you haven't learned yet. Sleep, when it finally came, was more like passing out. A brief mercy before the bell would ring again and the whole brutal cycle would start anew. And this was only your first day as a medieval nun. You're jolted from these memories by a sound in the darkness. Footsteps in the corridor. Your body tenses. Night visitors never bring anything good. You pull your scrap of curtain tighter around you, trying to become invisible against the wall. As the footsteps grow closer, then pass by your door, you release a breath you didn't realize you were holding. Not for you, not tonight. But you've been here 2 weeks now, and you're learning that in this place, it's only a matter of time before your turn comes for whatever new cruelty they devised in the name of God. The cold seeps deeper into your bones as you curl tighter into yourself. Tomorrow will come too soon with its bells and prayers and endless work. Sleep is the only escape you have left. You close your eyes, wondering how your father sleeps at night, whether he thinks of you at all, whether the ale he bought with your freedom was worth it. As you drift off, one thought circles in your mind. What fresh hell will tomorrow bring? The bell rings like death itself. A harsh clanging sound that rips through your dreams and drags you violently back to reality. For in the morning, pitch black, cold that makes your teeth chatter. You've only been asleep for what? 3 hours? 4? Not enough. Never enough. Your body screams in protest as you force yourself to move. Every muscle aches from yesterday's labor. Your hands are raw, blistered from the harsh brush and lye soap. Your knees throbbed from hours pressed against stone. But you can't be late, not again. Sister Agnes was late yesterday, just by minutes. You all watched as they made her kneel on dried peas in the corner all day. Rosary beads cutting into her fingers as she repeated prayers until her voice gave out. Move, girl. A senior nun stands in the doorway, her face a pale oval in the darkness. She carries a thin switch, tapping it against her palm. You felt it sting before. Chapel now. The 4 of you scramble up from your stone corners. No time to adjust your clothes or rub feeling back into frozen limbs. Just stumble out into the dark corridor, following the bobbing lantern ahead. In your head, you're like, what kind of God wants worship at 4 in the damn morning when it's too dark to even see his supposed creation? But you keep that thought buried deep. Thoughts like that earn worse than the switch. The chapel is somehow colder than your sleeping quarters. Massive stone walls trap the night chill. Hold it close like a lover. Candles offer more shadow than light. You find your spot among the rows of black-clad figures, 23 nuns in total. Some old arrived as girls decades ago, their faces carved with permanent frowns. Some new, like you, still adjusting to this brutal life. You think they'd let you ease into things, you know? A gradual introduction to non-life. Nope, they throw you straight into the deep end. Swim or drown, mostly drown. Kneeling begins immediately. Not comfortable kneeling on cushions, bare knees on stone. The already formed scabs from yesterday break open again. You feel warm blood trickle down your shins. The prayers start. Latin words that mean nothing to you. Hours of them. Endless streams of sounds you're supposed to repeat but can't understand. The abbot's voice drones on and on and on. His eyes scan the rows, looking for drooping heads for signs of weakness. Ora pro nobis, they chant. Ora pro nobis, you mumble back, having no idea what you're saying. Your head spins from hunger. Yesterday's meal was a thin GRL and a crust of bread, barely enough to keep a bird alive. Your stomach cramps painfully. The senior nuns told you that hunger brings you closer to God, that suffering is holy. Feels like if you're being honest. The morning light finally begins to filter through the high windows. One tiny mercy. It means the morning prayers are almost done. 7 hours of kneeling and chanting and trying not to pass out. 7 hours closer to heaven, they say. Feels more like 7 hours closer to the grave. As the first real light touches the chapel floor, you notice something. An apple, sitting near the altar, catching the pale sunlight. Your stomach clenches violently at the sight. When was the last time you had fresh fruit? You can't even remember. The priests and senior nuns have food like this. Real food. You've seen them eating in their private quarters. Meat, cheese, bread that isn't moldy, wine. But for new initiates, scraps, punishment rations, fasting for purification. The abbot finally signals the end of morning prayers. The nuns rise stiffly, bones cracking, suppressed groans as circulation returns to aching legs. You stand too quickly and nearly faint black spots dancing in your vision. Sister Millicent beside you doesn't rise fast enough. The abbess is on her immediately. Lazy in devotion, lazy in spirit. She hisses, grabbing the girl's ear and twisting hard. Extra prayers tonight for you. And just like that, another 12 hours of kneeling added to someone's torment. You move with the others toward the doorway. But as you pass near the altar, that apple calls to you like a beacon. Without thinking, honest to God, without any actual thought, your hand reaches out, trembling. The smack is so sharp and sudden that you yelp. Mother Agnes, the oldest and cruelest of the senior nuns, stands beside you, ruler in hand, your fingers stinging from the blow. No food, she says, voice like gravel. 3-day water fast for new nuns. You must purify. She leans closer, her breath sour. It's our tradition. 3 days. You've already barely eaten since arriving. Your legs feel like they might give out at the very thought, but you start to protest, then catch yourself. Too late. Mother Agnes's eyes narrow to slits. You question the holy ways. She raises her voice so all can hear. Our newest sister thinks herself above our sacred traditions. All eyes turn to you. Some with judgment, some with pity, some with the dead emptiness of those who've been here too long to care. No, mother, you whisper. I was merely silence. Her bony finger points to a spot before the altar. Kneel there, contemplate your pride. No water today either, so you kneel. What choice do you have? Kneel as the rest file out to breakfast, such as it is. Kneel as the sun climbs higher, casting rainbow patterns through the stained glass. Kneel as your empty stomach twists and cramps and your parched throat begs for relief. Hours pass this way. The stone beneath your knees no longer hurts, it's gone numb. Small blessings, footsteps behind you. You don't turn. You've learned that much. You're the new one, a voice says. Younger than Mother Agnes. Not unkind exactly, but careful. The pretty one from the village. You say nothing. Eyes fixed on the crucifix ahead. She moves into view, maybe 30, with tired eyes, but a face not yet hardened into permanent disapproval. Sister Beatrice, she says, I oversee the infirmary. You nod slightly, unsure if you're permitted to speak. You may respond, she says with a hint of a smile. Yes, Sister Beatrice, your voice comes out raspy from thirst. She glances around, then quickly presses something into your hand. A small cup of water. Drink it fast, she whispers. They'll be back soon. You gulp it gratefully. The warm, slightly metallic taste. The most wonderful thing you've ever experienced. You almost weep with gratitude. Why? You dare to ask as you hand the cup back. Her smile turns sad. I was you once, beautiful, young, forced here against my will. She takes the cup, hides it in the folds of her habit. It doesn't get easier, but you learn to survive. And then she's gone. Silent steps, carrying her away before you can thank her properly. The rest of the day passes in a haze of hunger and thirst. The kneeling punishment lasts until Vespers, evening prayers. By then, you can barely stand. Your knees are bleeding freely. Your head pounds, and the world tilts dangerously when you finally rise. That's just day one of your fast, Mother Agnes says as she walks past. 2 more to go. Perhaps now you'll learn. You stumble through evening prayers, mouth-forming words your brain can't process. When you're finally released to your sleeping quarters, you collapse onto your stone corner, too exhausted even to arrange your scrap of curtain properly. One of the other new nuns, Mary, who arrived just days before you, edges closer. First punishment fast, she whispers, careful not to be overheard. You nod weakly. They watch at night, she murmurs, but I've saved this. From somewhere in her habit, she produces a small crust of bread, hard as stone, but bread nonetheless. Hide it until deep night. Eat it when the patrol passes. You take it with trembling fingers. Why help me? Her eyes already hollowing from weeks here. Meet yours. Because they want us broken and alone. The only way to survive is together. You clutch the bread like the treasure it is, tucking it into your own habit. The small act of kindness nearly breaks you. After days of cruelty, the simplest human decency feels overwhelming. The night is even colder than the one before. Or maybe it's just that your body has fewer reserves to fight it. The wind still howls through the cracks, but now it seems to blow straight through you. As if your solid form is fading, becoming as insubstantial as your former life. You wait, listening to the rhythm of the convent at night, the patrols of senior nuns checking for rule breakers, the distant snores from the priest's comfortable quarters, the occasional whimper or sob from other new initiates. When the corridor is silent and dark, you retrieve Mary's gift. The bread is so hard you have to suck on it to soften it enough to eat. It tastes of dust and mold. But in this moment, it's the finest feast imaginable. As you savor each tiny morsel, you notice something by the narrow window. Moonlight catching on something metal. You edge closer, curious. It's a nail, old, rusty, sticking out from the window frame. But what captures your attention is what's carved into the stone wall beside it. Names, dozens of them, small, carefully scratched letters, some fresh, some faded with time. You run your fingers over them in the darkness. Girls like you forced here. Some survived, you suppose. Some probably didn't. You decide in that moment that you'll survive. That whatever it takes, you won't let them break you completely. Your name will not be just another fading mark on a hidden wall. The next morning arrives with the same cruel bell, the same stumbling in darkness, the same hours of kneeling. Your second day of the fast is worse than the first. Your head spins constantly now. Standing makes you dizzy. Your thoughts come slower, muddier. But there's work after prayers. Always work. No rest for the holy. Today it's laundry. Massive cauldrons of boiling water. Harsh lye soap that burns your already raw hands. The steam at least provides some warmth, but the labor is back-breaking. Hauling water, scrubbing the priest's clothes and altar linens, wringing heavy wet fabric with arms that feel like they might snap from weakness. Sister Clara, overseeing the laundry, is less openly cruel than Mother Agnes, but she works you without mercy nonetheless. Faster, she keeps saying, the Lord's work doesn't wait for weak hands. You're paired with an older nun for the hardest parts. Sister Martha, who's been here 20 years. Her hands are permanently red and chapped, fingers gnawed like tree roots. Arrived when I was 14, she tells you during a rare moment when Sister Clara steps away. Family needed the money. 7 brothers to feed. Does it get better? You ask, voice barely above a whisper. Her laugh holds no humor. You get numb to it, not better. She glances to ensure you're still unobserved. The trick is to find the small freedoms. They can control your body, but not what's in here. She taps her temple. I go on journeys in my mind during prayers, sail across oceans, visit Constantinople. They'll never know. It's a strange comfort, but a comfort nonetheless. The idea that some small part of yourself might remain yours alone. By midday, you're swaying on your feet. The lack of food and water, combined with the heavy labor, has pushed your body to its limits. The room tilts and spins. The hot steam becomes suffocating. I need, you begin, but can't finish the thought. The stone floor rushes up to meet you. You wake to cold water being splashed on your face. Sister Clara stands over you, looking more annoyed than concerned. Weak body, weak face, she says up. There's work yet to be done, but you literally can't stand. Your body simply refuses the command. 2 days without food, minimal water, hours of physical labor. It's too much. Sister Martha steps forward. She needs the infirmary. She's no use to go dead. Sister Clara looks like she might argue, but ultimately nods sharply. Take her then, but she returns to work tomorrow, fast or no fast. Martha helps you up, supporting your weight as you stumble from the laundry to the infirmary. The corridor spins around you, darkness threatening the edges of your vision. The infirmary is marginally warmer than the rest of the convent. Small mercies. Sister Beatrice, the nun who gave you water yesterday, looks up as Martha half carries you in. Fasting collapse, Martha explains, helping you onto a narrow cot. An actual cot with a thin straw mattress that feels like heaven after stone floors. Beatrice nods, immediately moving to check your pulse. Second day, yes. They push too hard with the new ones lately. She turns to Martha. I'll take her. You should return before Clara reports you both. Martha squeezes your hand briefly before departing. Another small kindness to treasure. Beatrice waits until you're alone, then produces a cup of something that smells herbal and slightly sweet. Drinks slowly. You take it with trembling hands. But the fast is between you and God, she says firmly. And God doesn't want dead nuns. This is willow bark tea with honey. It will help your strength without breaking your fast too. Obviously, the warm liquid is bliss as it slides down your parched throat. The slight sweetness makes your empty stomach clench with need. As you sip, you take in the infirmary, shelves of herbs and tinctures, a small fire in the hearth, the only room besides the abbot's quarters you've seen with 3 other cots, empty at present. Why are you kind to me, you ask Beatrice. Won't you be punished? She adjusts a blanket over your legs. A real blanket, not a scrap of curtain. The infirmary is my domain. I answer to God and the abbot for the health of our sisters. She sits beside the cot. And yes, I remember my own first days here. 20 years ago now. 20 years, you echo, unable to imagine enduring this life for so long. I was 14. My father lost our home to gambling. The church offered him silver. Her voice is matter of fact, as if discussing the weather rather than the selling of a child. I fought it first. We all do. What changed? I found purpose in healing. It's the one true Christian work in this place. Her eyes hold a quiet defiance. The rest, the punishment, the starvation, the breaking of spirit, that's not God's work. That's men using God's name for control. It's the most heretical thing you've heard since arriving. You glance nervously at the door. Beatrice smiles sadly. Don't worry, this room is safe for truth out there. She gestures toward the door. Out there, you must be what they demand. Silent, obedient, broken. You finish the tea, feeling a small measure of strength returning. Rest, she says, taking the cup. I'll tell them you need until tomorrow to recover. It won't break your fast schedule. She leaves you alone. Then the cot, though hardly luxurious, feels like a cloud after nights on stone. The small blanket holds warmth your body had forgotten was possible. You drift, not quite sleeping, but not fully awake either, floating in the strange limbo of extreme exhaustion and hunger. Voices outside the door pull you back to awareness. Beatrice and someone else, a man's voice, the abbot. She's weak, he's saying, perhaps not suitable for our order. She's strong, Father, Beatrice counters. Her body simply needs adjustment to our ways. 3 have died this winter already. We cannot afford burial rites for more failures. Died, your blood runs cold. They've worked girls to death. She'll recover. Beatrice insists by tomorrow. I stake my position on it. A pause. See that she does. Our benefactors expect results from their donations. Benefactors, donations. The words swim in your exhausted mind. Your father received silver, yes, but it seems the church is running a business here, taking unwanted girls, working them to death, all while collecting donations from their families. The door opens and closes. You quickly shut your eyes, feigning sleep. Footsteps approach your cot. I know you're awake, Beatrice says softly, and that you heard. You open your eyes. They let girls die. Her face is grim. Not intentionally, but yes, the young ones, the delicate ones. The regime is too harsh. Pneumonia, starvation, work injuries. There are many ways to die here, and the families never know. They are told their daughters died in Christ's service. A holy death. The bitterness in her voice is subtle, but unmistakable. Most never ask questions. You try to imagine your father receiving news of your death. Would he mourn or simply order another ale with the silver he received for you? Will I die here? The question slips out before you can stop it. Beatrix's hand finds yours surprisingly warm. Not if I can help it, but surviving here requires more than just physical strength. It requires, she searches for the word adaptation. learning which rules must be obeyed absolutely and which have flexibility, like drinking tea during a fast, you say. Her smile is quick. Exactly, teach me, you whisper. Please, I want to survive. She squeezes your hand once, then stands. Rest now. Tomorrow you return to their world of rules and punishment. But remember, there are pockets of mercy, even in the cruelest places. Find them, create them when you can. As she turns to leave, you ask one more question. The girls who died, what happened to them? Beatrice pauses at the door. They're buried behind the north wall. No markers, no prayers. Her voice drops even lower. The church doesn't waste ceremony on failures. She leaves you then alone with the weight of this new knowledge. Not just a prison, this place, but potentially a grave. The carved names on your dormitory wall take on new meaning. Perhaps not just a record of those who passed through, but a desperate attempt to ensure they wouldn't be completely forgotten. You close your eyes, feeling the softness of the cot beneath you, knowing it's a brief respite before returning to stone floors and endless labor. Tomorrow you'll go back to the fast, to the punishment, to the regime designed to break your spirit. But something has shifted inside you. A determination hardens. You will learn the rules of survival here. You will find the small mercies, the hidden pockets of humanity. You will adapt, because the alternative is becoming just another nameless grave behind the north wall. And that you decide, as exhaustion finally pulls you into sleep, is not going to be your story. You're jolted awake by Sister Beatrice gently shaking your shoulder. The small comfort of the infirmary cot makes the awakening even crueler. A brief taste of something almost human before returning to stone floors and empty stomachs. It's time, she whispers. Mother Agnes will be making her rounds soon. You need to be back in your dormitory before she notices your absence. The infirmary is dark, lit only by a single candle. Through the narrow window, you can see it's still night. Maybe an hour or two before the dreaded 4 o'clock bell. Thank you, you whisper, swinging your legs off the cot. Your body still feels hollow and weak, but the few hours on an actual surface with a real blanket have restored something in you. Not strength exactly, but perhaps resolve. Beatrice presses something into your hand. A small bundle wrapped in cloth, dried apple and a crust of bread, she murmurs. Hide it well. Take tiny bits when truly desperate. It could mean the difference between surviving your fast or joining the unmarked graves. The bundle disappears into your habit before you even consider the risk she's taking. Why do you help me? In the candlelight, her face shows a weariness earned through decades of convent life. Because once someone helped me, and because someday you'll help someone else. She touches your cheek briefly. That's how we survive this place. Small mercies past Hanto, hand in darkness. She guides you through silent corridors, the stones cold beneath your bare feet. The convent at night feels both more threatening and more honest. The pious facade stripped away to reveal the prison it truly is. You reach your dormitory undetected. The other girls are shapeless bundles in corners, their breathing the only sound. You settle into your spot, arranging your pitiful scrap of curtain. Did they beat you? Mary whispers from her corner so quietly you almost miss it. Oh no, you whisper back. Infirmary, Beatrice helped me. A tiny exhale of relief. Good. Mother Agnes wanted you punished more, but the abbot said no more dead novices this winter. The casual way she says it chills you more than the stone floor. Dead novices like it's expected normal. Sleep, you tell her. Bell comes soon, and it does far too soon. The familiar clanging that's already becoming the soundtrack to your nightmares. Your body protests, rising. muscles stiff from the brief return to your stone corner after the relative luxury of the infirmary cot. Today marks your third day of fasting. The hunger has changed now. No longer a sharp pain, but a hollow emptiness, a lightedness that makes the world seem slightly unreal. Your lips are cracked from thirst. Your tongue feels swollen in your mouth. Morning prayers blur together, Latin words flowing over you while you focus simply on remaining upright. Several times you catch yourself swaying, vision going grey at the edges. Each time you pinch your arm hard, using pain to stay conscious. You're not the only one struggling. Among the 20-odd black-robed figures, at least 3 others are on punishment fasts of various durations. One girl, Catherine you think her name is, suddenly crumples halfway through the service, hitting the stone floor with a sickening thud. No one moves to help her. The prayers continue uninterrupted, as though nothing happened. The abbot's eyes flick to the fallen girl, then away, his monotonous Latin chanting never faltering. Finally, after what seems an eternity, 2 senior nuns drag Catherine's limp form from the chapel. You never see where they take her. The service simply continues. The gap in the line of kneeling figures, the only evidence she was ever there. What happens to her now? You dare to whisper to the nun beside you. The girl, Margaret, an 18-year-old who's been here 6 months, barely moves her lips as she responds. Depends if she wakes. Infirmary if she's lucky. North Wall if she's not. The matter-of-fact way she speaks of death here makes your blood run cold. 6 months ago, Margaret probably looked like you, a normal girl with hopes and dreams. Now she discusses a peer's potential death with all the emotion of commenting on the weather. Is that what this place does? Hollows you out until nothing human remains. After prayers comes your work assignment. Today it's the kitchen gardens. Under normal circumstances, this might be considered a desirable task. Fresh air, less direct supervision. But in your weakened state, digging frozen ground feels like torture. Sister Joan oversees the gardens, an ancient nun with a perpetual squint and hands like Nile tree roots. She assesses your condition with one glance. Last day of fasting. Yes, you'll be useless. She thrusts a small handrake at you. Weed the herb beds. Try not to fall face first into them. It's not kindness exactly, but it's less cruelty than you've come to expect. The herb beds at least require kneeling rather than standing, reducing the chance you'll faint again. The winter sun offers little warmth as you work the frozen earth. Your fingers quickly go numb. Your empty stomach cramps. Periodically, but there's a strange peace in the mindless task, in being outside the oppressive convent walls. In the simple act of caring for living things. You're the new village girl, aren't you? The pretty one. The voice startles you. A young novice, maybe 14, has approached silently. I was, you say, touching your sure head self-consciously. Not anymore. The girl kneels beside you, picking up a spare tool to help with the weeding. I'm Elizabeth, been here 3 months. Her voice drops. Is it true a general wanted to marry you? The question catches you off guard. Gossip, it seems, travels even in silent convents. Yes, but my father couldn't pay the dowry. Elizabeth works beside you, her movements quick and efficient. My family had 7 children, not enough food. Mother Superior told my parents I'd be educated, that I might even learn to read. A bitter smile crosses her young face. I've learned a lot of Latin prayers. Can't tell you what any of them mean. Why are you talking to me? You ask, glancing nervously towards Sister Joan, who appears to be dozing in a patch of weak sunlight. Won't you be punished? Garden duty has advantages, Elizabeth says with a small shrug. Jones, old, half-blind, sleeps more than she watches. She pulls a weed with particular viciousness. You have to find the gaps in their system, the moments when they're not watching. That's how you stay sane. It's the same thing Beatrice suggested, finding small freedoms within the rigid structure of convent life. How do you do it, you ask? Survive here? Elizabeth's face loses its childlike quality for a moment, revealing someone much older in spirit than in years. I pretend I'm someone else, a queen maybe, or a character from the stories my grandmother told. I'm just playing a part, saying the lines. None of it is really happening to me. The girl's wisdom stuns you. While you've been fighting against your captivity, she's found a way to mentally escape it. And I remember, she continues, voice barely above a whisper, this isn't forever. What do you mean? Her eyes meet yours, something dangerous flickering in them. People leave, sometimes ways out exist. Before you can ask more, Sister Jones stirs from her doze. Elizabeth immediately shifts away, resuming her weeding in silence, head bowed appropriately. You ponder her words as you work. Ways out exist. What ways escape seems impossible. Where would you go with a shaved head, wearing a nun's habit, with no money and no protection? Death is certainly an exit, but not one you're eager to take. What other options could there be? The winter day passes slowly. Your fast means you miss the midday meal, forced to watch as the other nuns file into the refectory, while you remain in the garden, permitted only sips of water. By afternoon, your hands are raw from cold and work, your head spinning from hunger. When the bell finally signals the end of work period, you can barely stand. 3 days without food has taken its toll. Your legs tremble beneath you as you put away the garden tools. Sister Joan appears beside you, her ancient face unreadable. Without a word, she presses something into your palm, a small piece of hard cheese, not much bigger than your thumb. Eat it now, she mutters, where no one sees. Fast ends at sunset. This just hurries it along a bit. You stare at her in shock. Another small mercy from the most unexpected source. Why? You manage to ask. The old woman's face remains impassive. 50 years I've been here. Watched too many young ones die because old like Agnes think starvation brings holiness. She nods at the cheese. Eat before I change my mind. You don't hesitate further. The cheese is dry and salty, but it's the most exquisite thing you've ever tasted. You have to stop yourself from groaning with pleasure as you chew it slowly, savoring every morsel. Thank you, you whisper when it's gone. Joan's only response is a slight nod before she shuffles away, calling out to another novice about improperly stored tools. The incident strikes you deeply. Beatrice in the infirmary, Mary with her saved bread crust, Elizabeth in the garden now, Joan with her secret cheese. Small acts of rebellion and kindness in a place designed to crush both. As you make your way to evening prayers, you realize that the convent contains 2 parallel worlds, the official one of rigid rules and punishments, and the hidden one of tiny mercies passed between women trying to help each other survive. The abbot awaits in the chapel, flanked by Mother Agnes. Your 3-day fast is formally ended with a ceremony that feels more like humiliation than spiritual cleansing. You must kneel before them, confess your sin of gluttony, though the irony of this, after 3 days without food, isn't lost on you, and promise to better control your earthly appetites. Your fast is complete, the abbot intones. May your spirit be purified through your body's suffering. Mother Agnes looks almost disappointed that you survived the ordeal without further collapse. Her thin lips press together in disapproval as the abbot permits you to join the others for the evening meal. The meal itself is hardly a feast. Thin vegetable soup, a small piece of dark bread, and a cup of watered-down ale. But after 3 days of nothing, it might as well be a royal banquet. You force yourself to eat slowly, knowing that devouring it quickly could make you sick after such prolonged fasting. You're hyper-aware of the food's texture, its temperature, its taste. The simple act of swallowing something sustaining feels miraculous. You notice other novices watching you with a mixture of relief and envy. Relief that you survived, envy that your punishment is over while theirs continues. That night, back on your stone floor corner, you sleep deeply despite the discomfort. Your body, finally given some nourishment, surrenders to exhaustion. Days pass, then weeks. Winter deepens around the convent. Snow piling against the outer walls. Ice forming inside on the stone. The cold becomes another form of torture. Constant, inescapable, bone deep. Your breath forms clouds in the dormitory. The chapel is so frigid that sometimes the holy water freezes in its basin. You learn the rhythms of convent life, the endless cycle of prayers, work, more prayers, fitful sleep, then prayers again. You learn which rules can never be broken. Speaking during great silence, questioning the abbot's authority, and which have some flexibility, the exact duration of prayers when supervisors are absent, the occasional sharing of food. You learn which senior nuns are cruel by nature, Mother Agnes and her circle, and which simply enforce rules out of their own fear, Sister Clara and most others. You learn that the abbot visits the village prostitutes monthly while preaching about the sins of the flesh weekly. Most importantly, you learn to create a separate self, the obedient novice who exists on the outside while your true self retreats deep within, preserved and protected. One bitterly cold morning in what must be late January, you're assigned to the scriptorum, a rare privilege usually reserved for nuns who've proven their devotion. Your task is simple, grinding pigments for the scribes who illuminate manuscripts. It's mindless work, but it's indoors away from the biting wind, so you accept it gratefully. Sister Hildegard oversees the scriptorum, a severe woman with ink-stained fingers and surprising knowledge. You grind in circular motions, she instructs, demonstrating with the mortar and pestle. Consistent pressure, too hard ruins the pigment, too soft wastes time. You follow her guidance, working the blue stone into fine powder. The repetitive motion is almost meditative. Around you, a dozen nuns work in silence, copying texts or creating delicate illustrations. This, at least, seems like meaningful work, preserving knowledge rather than just scrubbing floors or weeding frozen gardens. You have steady hands, Hildegard comments. After observing your work for a time, perhaps you could learn illumination someday. The comment, the mere suggestion that you might have a future beyond endless punishment, startles you. I would like that, you say carefully. Hildegard's stern face softens almost imperceptibly. The mind needs occupation as much as the body needs discipline. Remember that. She moves away to check another novice's work, leaving you to ponder her words. That night, lying on your stone floor, you reflect on how much you've changed in just a month. Your body has grown thinner, but somehow stronger, adapting to reduced food and constant labor. Your knees have developed calluses from hours of prayer. Your hands have hardened from work. But the greater change is internal. You've learned to create your own private mental world while outwardly conforming. You've discovered the secret network of small kindnesses that help sustain the vulnerable. You've begun to master the art of survival in this harsh place. As if reading your thoughts, Mary shifts in her corner nearby. You're different, she whispers, barely audible. When you first came, I thought you'd die within a month. I almost did, you remind her. No, she shakes her head slightly. The ones who die are the ones who fight it too hard or surrender too completely. You found the middle path. You ponder this. Is there really no way out except death? Mary is silent so long you think she's fallen asleep. Finally, she whispers, there are ways, dangerous ones. Tell me, you urge. Some run away, though most are caught and brought back for public punishment. Her voice drops even lower. Some find protection from powerful men, though the price is high. You think of Beatrix's warning about the higher priest and the others. Some find purpose, like Beatrix with her healing or Hildegard with her books. They carve out small kingdoms within these walls. A pause, and some just endure year after year until they become Mother Agnes. The thought of becoming like the cruel old nun makes your skin crawl. I won't become that, you vow. We all say that at the beginning. Mary's voice holds a weariness beyond her years. Winter is the hardest. Spring brings opportunities. Wait and watch. Winter, indeed, feels endless. February brings blizzards that leave the convent isolated for days. Provisions running low, temperatures dropping until even prayer becomes secondary to simply surviving the cold. You all huddle together at night now. Rules about individual sleeping spaces temporarily relaxed in the face of potentially freezing to death. It's during one such blizzard night, the wind howling like demons around the convent walls, that Catherine, the girl who collapsed during your fast, begins to cough. Not an ordinary cough, but something deep and rattling that shakes her entire body. By morning, she's burning with fever. By midday, they've moved her to the infirmary. By evening, whispers circulate that she won't last the night. The speed of it terrifies everyone. One day a healthy young woman, the next at death's door. The convent buzzes with fearful speculation. God's judgment, Mother Agnes declares during evening prayers for her repeated failures in devotion. But later, in the relative privacy of the dormitory, Elizabeth offers a different perspective. It's the cold and hunger, she whispers. Her family was poor. She came here already weak. They worked her too hard, fed her too little. God had nothing to do with it. These competing narratives, divine punishment versus human cruelty, highlight the central tension of convent life. Is the suffering spiritual purification or simply abuse disguised as devotion? You visit Catherine in the infirmary when you can slip away unnoticed. Beatrice tends her constantly, but even her healing skills seem inadequate against the raging fever and cough that brings up blood. Will she survive? You ask Beatrice on your third visit. Beatrix's tired eyes meet yours, only by God's mercy, and there seems precious little of that within these walls. The bitter comment shocks you. It's the closest to open blasphemy you've heard from anyone here. Catherine dies just before dawn the following day. They announce it matter-of-factly at morning prayers, as though reporting on the weather or the day's work assignments. Sister Catherine has returned to God's embrace, the abbot intones. Let her example remind us all that our earthly vessels are weak, but our spiritual devotion must remain strong. You watch the faces around you. Most show nothing. Blank masks perfected through months or years of suppressing emotion. But a few of the newer girls have tears streaming silently down their cheeks. One, Anna, who was especially close to Catherine, seems to be physically biting her lip to keep from crying out. And something in you breaks. Not in the way they want, not your will or your spirit, but the last tenuous connection to the idea that this place serves any truly holy purpose. If God exists, you think he cannot possibly want this, cannot desire the suffering and death of young women whose only crime was being born into families that could or would keep them. You helped dig Catherine's grave that afternoon. The ground is frozen solid, requiring hours of chipping away with picks before you can create a space deep enough. The work is exhausting, but you throw yourself into it. Each strike of the pick fueled by a growing anger. They bury her without ceremony. No prayers beyond the standard daily ones. No marker for her grave behind the north wall. Nothing to indicate that a young woman named Catherine ever lived and suffered and died here, except that night you take the nail you discovered by your dormitory window and scratch her name into the stone wall alongside the others, your small act of defiance and remembrance. She was 17, whispers. Anna, watching you work, wanted to be a midwife before her family sent her here. The simple biographical detail. This fragment of who Catherine was, beyond just another black-robed figure, hits you harder than her death itself. She had dreams once, hopes, a future she imagined for herself that had nothing to do with endless prayers on cold stone floors. I won't let them forget her, you promise, finishing the last letter of her name. Anna's hand finds yours in the darkness, squeezing briefly. None of us will. As February finally yields to March, you realize you've survived your first season in the convent. Your body has changed, thinner, harder, perpetually hungry, but stubbornly alive. Your mind has developed defenses, the ability to appear present during endless prayers while traveling far away in your thoughts. But most significantly, you've developed connections. Mary with her whispered warnings and advice, Elizabeth with her strategies for mental escape, Beatrice with her healing skills and secret kindnesses, even old Joan with her gruff assistance in the garden. A network of women helping each other endure. You're no longer the village beauty marked for marriage to a general. That girl is gone, her long hair lying in piles at your feet on that first terrible day. But you're not broken either, not in the way Mother Agnes and the abbot intended. Spring approaches with its promise of change, of opportunities. As Mary hinted, the coldest season is ending. You've survived what many don't, the brutal initiation into convent life. Now you need to learn how to truly live within it, and perhaps someday how to escape it. The first hints of spring arrive like whispered promises, tiny green shoots poking through the frozen earth, the occasional birdsong breaking the convent's oppressive silence. Days growing longer, the darkness retreating minute by minute. Your work assignments shift with the season, less time scrubbing endless floors, more time in the gardens and orchards preparing for planting. The labor is still backbreaking, but at least it happens under open sky with fresh air filling your lungs. It's been 3 months since you arrived. Your hair has grown from completely shaved to a short dark fuzz that covers your scalp like velvet. Not enough to be considered beautiful again, but enough to provide minimal protection from the cold. Your body has found a new equilibrium, perpetually hungry but functional. Trained to survive on less than you ever thought possible. Today, you're assigned to the apple orchard, clearing winter debris from around the trees and checking for damage from the harsh frosts. Sister Johann supervises, though supervisors might be generous. She mostly sits on a stone bench, dozing in the strengthening spring sunlight, occasionally barking in order when she rouses. The work suits you. There's peace in the rhythmic clearing, in watching tiny buds forming on branches that looked dead just weeks ago, life returning, persisting despite everything. You find yourself talking to the trees sometimes, whispering encouragement when no one can hear. You made it through winter, too, You murmur to a particularly gnarled old apple tree. We're both still here. You've developed this habit of finding meaning in small things. The way sunlight filters through bare branches. The first snowdrop pushing through frost. The brief moment of warmth when huddled with the other novices during the coldest nights. Sister Beatrice calls it collecting mercies, gathering tiny joys to sustain you through the hardships. As you work your way toward the orchard's edge, you spot something unusual near the convent's outer wall. A splash of color against the muddy ground. Moving closer, you realize with a shock that it's a person. A boy, perhaps 12 or 13, collapsed in the melting snow. You glance back at Sister Joan, still dozing. The other novices are working in different sections, out of sight. You hesitate only a moment before approaching the wall. The boy looks half dead, lips blue, body shaking uncontrollably. His clothes a little more than rags, his feet wrapped in dirty cloth instead of shoes. The winter has not been kind to those outside the convent walls any more than those within. "Hey," you whisper, crouching beside the low stone wall that separates you. "Can you hear me?" His eyes flutter open, brown, fever bright, terrified. He tries to scramble away, but lacks the strength. "Don't," he manages, teeth chattering. "Don't call the guards. I won't. You promise. What happened to you?" He shakes his head weakly. Village sickness took everyone. No food tried to reach next town. His voice is barely audible. So cold, you've heard rumors of a fever sweeping nearby villages. The convent has remained isolated, protected by its walls and strict rules against outside contact. This boy has clearly been walking for days, starving and freezing with nowhere to go. "Wait here," you tell him, though it's a foolish thing to say. He clearly isn't going anywhere. "I'll be back." You return to your work area, mind racing. The boy needs food, warmth, shelter. The Christian thing would be to bring him inside, to care for him until he recovers. But you know with absolute certainty that the convent will not open its gates. Mother Agnes speaks often of the contamination of the outside world and the need to maintain spiritual purity through isolation. Your eyes fall on the small storeroom at the edge of the orchard where winter apples are kept. The last of the previous year's harvest, carefully preserved in straw meant to sustain the convent until new crops can be harvested. You shouldn't. You really shouldn't. And yet, Sister Joan snores reach you from her bench. The other novices remain out of sight. With a silent prayer for forgiveness, or perhaps for not getting caught, you slip into the storeroom. The apples are wrinkled now, past their prime, but still edible. You grab 3, stuffing them into the folds of your habit, and quickly exit. Your heart pounds as you return to the wall. The boy hasn't moved, but his eyes track you weakly. "Here," you whisper, passing the first apple through a gap in the stones. He stares at it like it's made of gold, hands trembling as he takes it. The first bite seems to require all his remaining strength, but as the sweet flesh hits his tongue, something changes in his face. A spark of life returns. You pass the second apple through, then the third. He devours them all, color gradually returning to his blue-tinged lips. "Thank you," he whispers when he's finished. "Sister, you've saved me." The word saved hits you strangely. You haven't saved anyone or anything since entering these walls. You've been entirely focused on your own survival. This small act of mercy feels foreign, like exercising a muscle long disused. "What's your name?" you ask. "Thomas," he says. His voice already sounds stronger, from Millfield Village. "Rest here," you tell him, glancing nervously toward the orchard. "I'll try to bring more food later, and maybe a blanket." He nods, eyes already looking less desperate. God bless you, sister. You slip back toward your work area, carefully checking that no one has noticed your absence. Sister Joan still dozes. The other novices remain scattered through the orchard, focused on their own tasks. You pick up your rake and resume clearing debris, heart still racing, but with an unfamiliar feeling expanding in your chest. It takes a moment to recognize it as something like joy. Your task complete, you return with the others for midday prayers, then the sparse midday meal. Throughout the endless Latin chanting, your mind keeps returning to the boy by the wall, Thomas from Millfield. You wonder if he's still there, if the apples gave him enough strength to continue his journey to the next town. You wonder if he has anyone left in the world. When afternoon work assignments are distributed, you volunteer quickly for the laundry, not because you enjoy the steam and back-breaking labor, but because the laundry gives access to the stir-rooms where extra blankets are kept. One small threadbare blanket would hardly be missed. Sister Clara oversees the laundry with her usual grim efficiency. The work is demanding, hauling water, stoking fires to heat massive cauldrons, scrubbing the heavy black habits and rough linens, but the steam-filled room is warm, and the noise of water and scrubbing makes conversation possible without being overheard. "You're unusually eager today," Mary comments as you work side by side, arms deep in soapy water. You hesitate, then decide to trust her. "There's a boy," you whisper, outside the orchard wall, half dead from cold and hunger. Mary's hands still momentarily, "And you helped him." You nod, her eyes dart around, ensuring no one is listening. They'd punish you severely for that. Outside contact is forbidden, especially with males. "I know, but he was dying." Mary studies your face. You gave him food, apples from the stew room. She resumes scrubbing, her voice dropping even lower. "The apples are counted. If Agnes suspects even one missing, she'll have the novices searched." Your blood runs cold. Counted all of them. Everything here is counted, measured, controlled. Mary's face is grim. That's how they maintain power. Through absolute control of every resource. You scrub harder, mind racing. "He needed help. I couldn't just let him die." Mary's expression softens slightly. "No, you couldn't. Because despite everything they've done to you here, they haven't killed that part of you yet." She glances towards Sister Clara, then adds, "Be careful. Mercy is punished more harshly than defiance in this place." The afternoon passes in anxious labor. When the work period ends, you manage to slip a small threadbare blanket into your habit as the linens are being put away. The bulge is noticeable, but you keep your arms crossed over your chest, hoping no one pays close attention. Evening prayers, the sparse dinner, then the final prayers before sleep. Each minute drags as you wait for your chance to return to the orchard. The convent observes strict rules about movement after dark. Novices are forbidden from leaving their dormitories except to use the privy. Being caught elsewhere means certain punishment, but you've learned the patterns of the night patrols. The timing of the watch changes. When the convent bells strike 9, you slip from your sleeping corner. Mary gives you a warning look, but doesn't try to stop you. The other novices pretend not to notice. Another small mercy in this place of supposed virtue. The corridors are dark, illuminated only by occasional wall sconces. You keep to the shadows, freezing in place when you hear footsteps, moving again when silence returns. The route to the orchard takes you past the chapel, the refectory, through the kitchen gardens, and finally to the small side door that leads to the orchard grounds. It's locked, of course. But weeks ago, Elizabeth showed you the loose stone beside the doorframe where an ancient key is hidden. For emergencies, she'd said with a meaningful look. You'd wondered then what constituted an emergency in a convent. Now you know. The night air is cold, but not bitter. Spring softening winter's edge. The quarter moon provides just enough light to navigate between the apple trees toward the outer wall where you last saw Thomas. Hello, you whisper, approaching the spot. Thomas, are you there? For a moment there's no response, and your heart sinks. Perhaps he left. Perhaps the apples weren't enough. Perhaps, sister, his voice comes weakly from the shadows. You came back. Relief floods through you. I brought you a blanket, you say, pushing it through the gap in the stones. And this, from within your habit, you produce half your dinner bread and a small chunk of cheese you managed to save. His hands reach eagerly for the offerings. Thank you. Didn't think you'd return. Are you strong enough to travel tomorrow, you ask? The next village is half a day's walk west. He nods, already wrapping the blanket around his thin shoulders. I think so. The apples helped. I just needed something. You sit on your side of the wall as he eats, telling him about the villages you know of nearby which might offer help to an orphaned boy, which to avoid. He listens intently, occasionally asking questions between bites. There's something freeing about this conversation. An ordinary human exchange, not governed by the convent's rigid rules and hierarchies. Just two people helping each other under the stars. You're so absorbed that you don't hear the approaching footsteps until it's too late. What is this? The voice slices through the night like a blade. Mother Agnes stands at the edge of the orchard, lantern held high, her thin face twisted with outrage. Your body reacts before your mind can. Leaping up, stepping away from the wall, hands clutching your habit. Mother Agnes, you stammer. I was just silence. She strides forward, lantern light revealing Thomas huddled with his blanket and food on the other side of the wall. Thief, stealing God's food for beggars. Please, you begin. He would have died. Better he die than you dishonor the convent, she spits, grabbing your arm with surprising strength. Her fingers dig into your flesh like talons, consorting with males in the night, stealing sacred provisions, leaving your quarters without permission. The devil works through you, girl. She drags you back towards the convent, her grip painfully tight. Behind you, Thomas calls out something, but Mother Agnes's ranting drowns it out. Your mind races, searching for explanations, excuses, anything that might lessen the coming punishment. You find nothing. The convent erupts into activity as Mother Agnes sounds the alarm bell, 3 sharp rings that echo through the stone corridors. Within minutes, blurry nuns filled the chapter house, a room used only for the most serious convent. The abbot arrives last, his face thunderous beneath his nightcap. Mother Agnes presents her case with vicious precision, each word driving another nail into your fate. Or found her at the wall, she declares to the assembled community, feeding a vagrant boy with stolen provisions, alone with him in darkness, speaking familiarly. Whispers ripple through the gathered nuns. Some look shocked, others merely tired, a few, including Beatrice and Mary, concerned. The abbot turns cold eyes upon you. Is this true? You consider lying, but what's the point? You were caught in the act. The boy was starving, you say, trying to keep your voice steady. He would have died without help. That was not your decision to make. The abbot's voice is dangerously quiet. The convent's provisions are sacred, entrusted to our stewardship by God Himself. You have stolen from the Almighty. You want to argue that surely God would prefer His apples feed a starving child than rot in storage. But you've learnt enough to keep this thought to yourself. Furthermore, he continues, you have broken your vow of obedience by leaving your quarters without permission. You have risked spiritual contamination through unsupervised contact with the outside world, and you have placed yourself in proximity to male temptation. This last charge almost makes you laugh. Thomas was a half-dead child, not some seductive threat to your virtue, but the abbot and Mother Agnes see sin everywhere, especially where none exists. The punishment must fit the crime. The abbot pronounces 10 days without food. Let your soul starve with your stomach. Let God show you the real value of food. 10 days, your heart sinks. You've barely survived 3-day fasts. 10 will likely kill you. Mother Agnes looks triumphant. Shall we begin the penance tonight, Father? At dawn, he decides. Let her contemplate her sins until then. They lock you in the small room used for solitary confinement, a windowless cell with nothing but a hard wooden bench and a chamber pot. The darkness is absolute when they take the lantern, the silence complete when they bolt the door. Alone in the pitch black, you finally allow yourself to cry. Not for the punishment, though the prospect of 10 foodless days terrifies you. You cry for the cruelty disguised as virtue, for the God they claim to serve, who bears no resemblance to the one you were taught to love as a child. You cry until there are no tears left, until exhaustion pulls you into fitful sleep on the hard bench. Morning arrives with the sound of the bolts sliding back. Light floods the cell, blinding after hours of complete darkness. You shield your eyes, making out the silhouette of Sister Beatrice in the doorway. Come, she says simply, the chapter house. You follow her on unsteady legs, unwashed, still wearing yesterday's habit. The chapter house is again filled with the convent's residents, but there's a new face among them, a visitor, a higher-ranking priest, judging by his ornate robes. His face is handsome in a cold way, his fingers adorned with rings that catch the morning light. This is the one, he asks, as you're brought before the assembly. Yes, Father Bernard, the abbot confirms. Caught stealing food for a vagrant, breaking cloister rules, the visiting priest, Father Bernard, studies you with unsettling intensity, and the punishment, 10 days without food, Mother Agnes supplies eagerly, beginning today. Father Bernard strokes his clean-shaven chin thoughtfully. Harsh, he comments. Perhaps too harsh for one so new to our ways. A ripple of surprise passes through the assembly. Mother Agnes's face hardens with displeasure. With respect, Father, she begins. Discipline must be. Father Bernard raises a hand, silencing her instantly. Service to the poor is service to God. She should be pardoned. You stare at him in shock. Pardoned. You'd expected, at best, a reduction in your sentence, not a complete dismissal. The abbot looks displeased, but nods stiffly. Even he cannot contradict a visiting priest of high rank. As you wish, Father Bernard. The girl is pardoned. You nearly weep with relief. Around the room, reactions vary. Mother Agnes looks furious. Beatrice cautiously relieved. Most others simply surprised. The girl will assist me in the archive today. Father Bernard announces, I require help cataloguing documents for the bishop. And just like that, instead of beginning a potentially fatal fast, you're assigned to help the mysterious visiting priest. The assembly disperses, Mother Agnes shooting you a venomous look as she sweeps past. The archive is a small room off the chapel containing the convent's records and important documents. Father Bernard closes the door once you're inside, leaving the two of you alone among dusty parchments and leather-bound volumes. Thank you, you say, still hardly believing your reprieve. For speaking for me, he smiles, but the expression doesn't reach his eyes. It seemed excessive punishment for an act of Christian charity. Something about his manner makes you uneasy, though you can't pinpoint why. Perhaps it's simply the strangeness of being alone with a man after months in the women's domain of the convent. "You'll help me organize these records," he says, gesturing to a pile of parchments. "The bishop requires a full accounting of the convent's holdings. The work is tedious but simple, sorting documents by date, placing them in proper order. Father Bernard works alongside you, occasionally asking questions about convent life, about Mother Annis's management, about the abbot's leadership. You answer carefully, sensing political currents you don't fully understand. The day passes in this manner. You're even permitted to attend meals, a privilege you appreciate deeply, knowing how close you came to 10 days without them. By evening, the work is nearly complete, the records neatly organized for the bishop's review. "You've been helpful," Father Bernard says, as the bell rings for evening prayers. "I'm pleased I could intervene on your behalf." "It was most generous, Father," you reply, eager to return to the familiarity of the chapel and your fellow novices. He moves to the door, but doesn't open it. Instead, he turns back to you, his expression shifting in a way that sends a chill down your spine. "Of course," he says softly, "you owe me." You blink, uncertain. "Oh, you, Father, your silence, your body." His smile now is predatory. "God forgives sins, but I forgive punishments." The meaning of his words hits you like a physical blow. This wasn't mercy, it was calculation. "Too, you've taken vows," you stammer, backing away until the shelves press against your spine. "Please, Father, I vows." He laughs softly. "Do you think you're the first novice to face this choice, pain or protection, punishment or accommodation?" You stare at him in horror, understanding fully now why he insisted on having you assist him alone, why he questioned you about convent politics, why he intervened in your punishment. "I'll find you tonight," he whispers, finally opening the door after the great silence begins. "We'll discuss your gratitude." Then he leaves you standing in the archive, trembling with fear and rage and helplessness. You saved a starving boy only to place yourself in the power of a predator in priestess robes. Evening prayers pass in a blur of panic. You search the faces of the senior nuns, wondering which ones know about Father Bernard's arrangements, which ones might help you. Mother Agnes would likely celebrate your degradation. The abbot would never believe you over a visiting dignitary. After prayers, as the novices file toward their dormitory for the night, you manage to whisper to Beatrice, Father Bernard. He expects payment for his intervention. Her face remains carefully neutral, but something flashes in her eyes. Recognition, not surprise. "The North Tower," she whispers back. "The door sticks. He won't check there. You don't need more explanation." When the convent settles into its nighttime silence, instead of returning to your sleeping corner, you slip away to the rarely used North Tower. The ancient wooden door, indeed, sticks in its frame, requiring considerable force to open and close. Inside, there's nothing but dust, a narrow window, and decades of neglect. But it's safer than your dormitory tonight. As you huddle in the darkness of the tower, hugging your knees to your chest, you wonder if this is your life now, escaping one danger only to face another, surviving by wit and luck and the secret network of women helping each other endure. You think of Thomas, hoping the food and blanket were enough to get him safely to the next village. You don't regret helping him despite everything. Perhaps that small act of genuine Christian charity is worth whatever comes next. The night grows colder. You curl tighter into yourself, knowing that Father Bernard is likely searching for you now. his promised protection transforming into certain punishment when he fails to find you. Tomorrow will bring consequences, but tonight at least you're safe in this forgotten corner of stone and dust, protected by the small mercy of a sticking door and Beatrix's whispered warning. Sometimes in this place, that's the most victory you can hope for. Morning comes with its usual brutal bell, but you're already awake. Sleep was impossible in the cold, dusty North Tower, your mind racing with fear about what awaits you. Father Bernard will not take kindly to being evaded. Mother Agnes will seize any opportunity to reinstate your punishment. You slip from the tower as the convent stirs, joining the line of black-robed figures heading toward morning prayers as if nothing happened, as if you spent the night in your assigned corner. A few curious glances come your way, but no one speaks. The great silence won't end until after prayers. You scan the chapel anxiously. Mother Agnes is there, tight-lipped and watchful. The abbot takes his usual position, but Father Bernard is nowhere to be seen. Your relief is short-lived. Halfway through the endless Latin recitations, the chapel door opens. Father Bernard enters, his face thunderous beneath a carefully composed mask of piety. His eyes find you immediately, narrowing with recognition and something darker. The rest of the service passes in mounting dread. When it ends and the nuns file out toward breakfast, you try to lose yourself in the crowd, but a firm hand grips your arm. Sister Agnes requires you in the chapter house. A senior nun informs you, her expression giving away nothing. Immediately, your stomach drops. So, this is how it happens. You follow her through the cold corridors, each step feeling like a march to execution. The chapter house holds Mother Agnes, the abbot, and Father Bernard. Their faces form a tribunal of judgment, 3 variations on the theme of displeasure. Where were you last night? Mother Agnes demands without preamble. You consider lying, but what would be the point? I was afraid, you say simply. Father Bernard's eyes flash. Afraid of what, precisely? The words stick in your throat. How do you accuse a priest to his face, especially with his allies beside him? I was concerned about the expectations following my pardon. Mother Agnes looks confused, but something passes between the abbot and Father Bernard, a look of understanding tinged with annoyance. Father Bernard graciously intervened on your behalf, the abbot states coldly. Your gratitude should be boundless. My gratitude is sincere, you manage, but my vows are sacred. Another look between the men. Father Bernard's lips curve in what might appear to be a benevolent smile to anyone who had unheard his whispered demands in the archive. Such devotion to your vows is commendable, he says smoothly, though selective. You didn't hesitate to break rules about leaving your quarters or distributing convent resources. He has you there, and he knows it. Mother Agnes looks increasingly suspicious, her gaze darting between you and Father Bernard. Since the girl seems confused about her obligations, the abbot says finally, perhaps a period of reflection is in order, a day in the chapel contemplating the meaning of gratitude and obedience. It's a compromise, not the 10-day fast originally prescribed, but not complete freedom either. And crucially, it keeps you in the public space of the chapel, not alone with Father Bernard. I shall oversee her contemplation personally, Father Bernard offers, as her spiritual advisor in this matter. Your blood turns to ice. That won't be necessary, the abbot replies, surprising you. Mother Agnes will arrange appropriate supervision. Is it possible? The abbot understands exactly what's happening. His expression gives nothing away, but his intervention seems deliberate. Father Bernard's smile tightens almost imperceptibly. As you wish, though I had hoped to discuss certain theological matters with the novice, Perhaps another time, the abbot says firmly, when her mind is properly focused on her duties. You're dismissed to the chapel, where you'll spend the day kneeling in prayer under the watchful eye of whichever nun Mother Agnes assigns. As you leave, you catch a final glance from Father Bernard, a look that promises this matter is far from settled. Sister Hildegard from the scriptorum is your appointed guardian for the day. She sets you to copying passages about obedience from various religious texts, occasionally checking your work, but otherwise leaving you in peace. It's a far gentler punishment than you expected. During a brief moment, when Hildegard steps out to speak with a passing nun, Beatrice slips into the chapel. "Are you all right?" she whispers urgently. "Did he find you?" "No," you whisper back, but he's angry and persistent. Beatrix's face is grim. He always is. He visits twice yearly, always leaves broken girls in his wake. The confirmation that this is a pattern that the senior nuns know about, it leaves you cold. Does no one stop him? Who would believe us over him? He's the bishop's right hand. Her voice drops even lower. Just avoid being alone. He leaves tomorrow after Vespers. She's gone before Hildegard returns, but her warning echoes in your mind. Just one more day to survive. One day of vigilance, of never being isolated, of sticking close to others. The day of contemplation passes slowly. Your knees ache from hours of kneeling. Your hand cramps from endless copying. But these physical discomforts are nothing compared to the constant anxiety, the feeling of being hunted. Evening comes, then night. You return to the dormitory with the other novices, positioning yourself in the middle of the group rather than your usual corner. Safety in numbers. Mary gives you a questioning look, but doesn't speak. The great silence has begun. Sleep comes fitfully, every small sound jolting you awake. The night stretches endlessly, the darkness playing tricks on your exhausted mind. But morning eventually arrives without incident. Perhaps you think, as you join the line for morning prayers, you've escaped. Perhaps Father Bernard has decided you're not worth the trouble. Perhaps the abbot's intervention was more effective than you realized. These hopeful thoughts sustain you through morning prayers, through breakfast, through the work assignment that follows, sorting newly harvested herbs in the infirmary with Beatrice. He was asking questions about you, Beatrice murmurs, as you work side by side to the younger nuns. Which ones were your friends? Where you go during free periods? Your momentary optimism evaporates. He's not giving up. No, but he's running out of time. Noon meal, afternoon prayers, then he departs. She hands you a small bundle of dried lavender. Stay where others can see you. Always, you follow her advice religiously, never allowing yourself to be alone, always within sight of multiple witnesses. The noon meal passes without incident. Afternoon prayers begin. Father Bernard is there, his pious exterior firmly in place, though his eyes follow you with undisguised intent. When prayers end, the nuns file out toward their afternoon duties. You position yourself deliberately in the middle of the group, surrounded on all sides. But as you reach the narrow corridor outside the chapel, a commotion erupts at the front of the line. Two novices collide, one dropping an armful of prayer books, parchments scattering across the stone floor. Everyone stops, some bending to help, others trying to navigate around the obstruction. In the confusion, a hand grips your arm, yanking you sideways through a small door you've never noticed before. Before you can cry out, you're pulled into darkness. A hand clamping over your mouth. "Clever girl," Father Bernard's voice hisses in your ear, making me work for what's owed. The door closes, shutting out the sounds of the corridor. You're in some kind of storage room, small, windowless, smelling of dust and old candle wax. Your heart pounds so hard you think it might burst. Please, you manage when he removes his hand. Father, this is wrong. Wrong, he laughs softly. I saved you from starvation, from punishment. A fair exchange is all I seek. You try to move toward the door, but he blocks your path in the dim light filtering through cracks. His face looks almost demonic. Desire twisting his features into something inhuman. I took vows of chastity, you say, trying to appeal to whatever religious feeling might remain in him before God. God understands necessity, he replies, and power. Who do you think they'll believe? A visiting priest honored by the bishop himself, or a troublemaking novice who was caught stealing and breaking rules? He's right, and you both know it. Even if you screamed, who would help you? Mother Agnes would probably consider this a fitting punishment. The abbot has already shown his willingness to look away. Please, you try once more, I beg you. Something in your tone makes him pause. For a moment, you think perhaps some shred of conscience has reached him. Then his hand shoots out, gripping your throat, pushing you against the wall. Begging is good, he says, his voice thick. Continue with that. What follows is both exactly what you feared and somehow worse. Your pleas fall on deaf ears. Your struggles are icily overpowered. Your vow of chastity is taken from you, not given. When it's over, he straightens his robes as if nothing unusual has occurred. You remain on the floor, body aching, spirit shattered. Our business is concluded, he says calmly. Unless you'd prefer the original punishment, 10 days can be arranged. You say nothing, can't find words in the hollow place that was once your mind. Wise choice. He moves to the door, then pauses. This remains between us. A confession of any kind would be unfortunate for you. He leaves you there on the cold stone floor, staring at the ceiling's cracks. You don't know how long you stay, unmoving, barely breathing. Time loses meaning. The only reality is the pain, physical and otherwise. Eventually you force yourself to move, to straighten your habit, to wipe your face, to stand on legs that threaten to buckle to open the door and check the now empty corridor, to walk somehow toward the infirmary where Beatrice might be. The infirmary is mercifully quiet when you arrive. Beatrice looks up from grinding herbs, her greeting dying on her lips as she sees your face. "Oh child," she whispers, "he found you. You can't speak. Can only nod once." She guides you to a chair. Her movements gentle, understanding. "Let me see your injuries," she says softly. You shake your head. "No one can know." "I already know," she replies, "as do others. You're not the first he's visited." The confirmation that this is a known pattern, that it's happened before to other girls, breaks something in you. Tears come for the first time, hot and silent. Beatrice treats your visible injuries with herbal salves, then prepares a steaming cup of something bitter-smelling. For preventing consequences, she explains, not meeting your eyes. You drink it without question, the harsh taste barely registering. "He's leaving today." "Yes, until autumn." She squeezes your hand. "You survived, remember that. Survived." The word feels hollow. Is this survival, this emptiness, this violation, this betrayal of everything sacred? "How do I face them all?" you ask, voice barely audible, knowing some of them know, some of them allowed it. Beatrice sigh heavily. "The same way we all do. One prayer at a time, one day at a time." You miss afternoon work, remaining in the infirmary under Beatrix's protection. By evening prayers, Father Bernard has indeed departed, taking his fine robes and predatory smile to the next convent on his circuit. The abbot makes no mention of your absence from work, perhaps understanding more than he acknowledges. Night brings no rest. Each time you close your eyes, the storage room returns in vivid detail. The smell of candle wax, the feel of stone against your back, the weight and the pain and the helplessness. Days pass, the visible bruises fade. You go through the motions of convent life, praying, working, eating the meager meals, sleeping on your stone corner. But something essential has changed within you. A light extinguished, a faith questioned. 2 weeks after Father Bernard's departure, the first signs appear. Morning sickness that you initially mistake for a stomach ailment. Beatrice notices during work in the infirmary. Her experienced eyes seeing what you're desperate to deny. When was your monthly bleeding last due? She asks quietly when no one else is near. You try to remember to count backwards through days that have blurred together in misery before he came. It should have arrived by now. Beatrix's face shows no surprise, only resignation. There are methods, she says carefully. Herbs that might help, but they're dangerous and considered grave sin. The choice she's offering registers slowly. End a pregnancy through forbidden means, risking both physical danger and spiritual condemnation, or allow it to continue and face certain discovery. I can't, you whisper, unsure whether you mean you can't terminate it or can't bear to continue. Either way, they'll know. Yes, Beatrice agrees sadly. Eventually, they will. The knowledge sits heavy between you. There are no good options, no path that doesn't lead to more suffering. For now, you can hide your condition, but soon enough, your body will betray you. What happens to nuns who become pregnant? You ask, though you suspect you already know. Beatrix's eyes turn distant. They're cast out, declared corrupt, spiritually defiled. The children, if they survive birth, are taken by the church. And if I told them the truth about Father Bernard, her laugh holds no humor. They would say you tempted him, that you're lying to cover your own sin, that the devil works through you, so there's no justice. Not in this world, Beatrice says softly. Perhaps the next weeks pass. You do what you can to hide your condition, wearing your habit looser, eating little to minimize the changes in your body. But the morning sickness persists, and twice you've had to rush from prayers to be violently ill outside. Mother Agnes watches you with increasing suspicion. You catch her conferring with other senior nuns, their eyes tracking your movements, noting your pal, your occasional unsteadiness. The inevitable confrontation comes one morning after you've been sick again. Mother Agnes corners you in a corridor, her thin face alight with malicious triumph. You're with child, she states flatly. Not a question. You say nothing, which is answer enough. Whose is it? She demands. Which village boy did you meet at the wall? The same one you stole food for. For a moment, you consider telling the truth, naming Father Bernard, forcing them to confront the predator they've enabled. But Beatrice was right. They would never believe you over him, and the retribution would be swift and terrible. No one you know, you say finally. Mother Agnes's lip curls in disgust. Harlot, you've defiled holy ground. The word stings, despite its injustice. It wasn't my choice, you whisper. Silence, she snaps. The abbot will hear of this immediately. The convent explodes with the news. By midday, every nun knows. The novices avoid you as if pregnancy might be contagious. The senior nuns eye you with disgust or morbid fascination. Only Beatrice, Mary, and Elizabeth show anything resembling compassion, though they're careful not to do so openly. The abbot summons you to the chapter house where Mother Agnes and her circle await. Their faces form a wall of judgment, unmoved by your unspoken suffering. You have betrayed your vows. The abbot intones gravely, brought sin and shame into this holy refuge. Father, please, you begin. But he silences you with a raised hand. Who is responsible for this abomination? He demands. A name hovers on your lips, Bernard, but you swallow it back. Even now, something stops you from speaking the full truth. Fear, perhaps, or the certainty of disbelief. It doesn't matter, you say instead. Mother Agnes hisses in outrage. It matters greatly. You will name him. You look at her, then at the abbot, seeing the hypocrisy laid bare. They care about the man's identity, not out of concern for you, but to ensure their convent's reputation remains untarnished. To control the narrative, no, you say simply. The abbot's face darkens. This defiance compounds your sign. You will be made an example of. The punishment is to be public, not just before the convent, but before the village as well. A spectacle of shame and judgment designed to reinforce the church's moral authority. They give you 1 day to prepare, 1 day to contemplate what's coming, 1 day to say goodbye to the few friends you've made in this place. Mary finds you in the dormitory, sitting alone on your stone corner. Everyone else has moved their sleeping mats away from you, as if sin might spread through proximity. Is it his? She asks quietly, meaning Father Bernard. News travels, even in a place of supposed silence. You nod once. I'm sorry, she says, and the simple acknowledgement of your suffering nearly breaks you. What will you do after? After. The word feels impossible. There is no after. You can imagine. I don't know, you admit. My family won't take me back. There are places, Mary says hesitantly. In the cities, houses for women like women who need shelter. The unspoken words hang between you. Houses for fallen women, prostitutes, the lowest of the low in society's eyes. Is that my choice? Brothel or starvation? Mary has no answer for this. No one does. The day of your public humiliation dawns bright and clear, as if the heavens themselves are conspiring to ensure maximum visibility for your shame. The village square has been prepared, a raised platform where normally market vendors would sell their goods, now transformed into a stage for your degradation. Word has spread. Villagers gather, their faces a mixture of morbid curiosity and predetermined judgment. Children point and whisper. Men leer. Women clutch their own children closer, as if your supposed sin might be catching. You recognize faces from your former life. The baker who used to slip you extra bread when your father wasn't looking. The blacksmith who once commented on your pretty smile. The general who wanted to marry you, now watching with smug satisfaction at your fallen state. And there your father, drunk even at this early hour, swaying slightly at the edge of the crowd. Your eyes meet briefly before he looks away, his face a mask of shame and disappointment. The convent procession arrives, led by the abbot and Mother Agnes. The nuns file into formation. Black habits, stark against the spring greenery. You walk behind them, escorted by 2 senior nuns who grip your arms like prison guards. The abbot addresses the crowd, his voice carrying across the square. He speaks of sin, of temptation, of the weakness of female flesh. He presents your case as a cautionary tale. The beautiful girl who spurned honest marriage, entered holy orders, then succumbed to carnal temptation. Every word is either false or twisted, but who would believe your version? Not these people who've already decided your guilt. Not this community that needs someone to judge to feel righteous by comparison. The sinner will now confess her sins before all. The abbot announces, gesturing for you to step forward. You stand at the edge of the platform, facing the sea of hostile faces. Your mouth opens, but no words come. What is there to say that wouldn't be another lie piled upon the many already spoken? Confess. Mother Agnes hisses behind you. You begin, your voice cracking. The crowd leans forward, eager for the salacious details, the admission of depravity. But you try again. Confess. The abbot commands, his patience visibly thinning. And so you do. Not the truth. They don't want truth. You confess to things you never did. Lust, disobedience, pride. The catalogue of sins they've already decided you're guilty of. The villagers gasp, nod, judge. Your father stumbles away halfway through, unable to bear more. The general watches with undisguised satisfaction. These people who once knew you as a neighbor, a daughter, a potential bride, now see only a fallen woman, a cautionary tale. When your confession ends, the abbot presents you with a whip. Not a symbol, but an actual instrument of pain. Leather straps knotted with small metal pieces. Punish yourself for God, he intones. Show your repentance through suffering. The crowd falls silent as you take the whip with trembling hands. This is the moment they've truly come for. Not the confession, but the blood. The spectacle of physical punishment that allows them to feel both righteous indignation and base excitement. You turn, bearing your back as instructed. The habit has been specially modified for this purpose. Cut low to expose your skin to the lash. A final humiliation. Your body, already violated in private, now exposed for public judgment. The first strike is the hardest. Your own arm delivering pain to your own flesh. The leather bites. The metal pieces tear. The crowd's collective intake of breath is audible again and again, each stroke leaving lines of fire across your skin. Blood seeps into the rough fabric of your habit. The physical pain blurs with the emotional, creating a storm of agony that almost separates you from yourself. How many times must you strike? No one has said. You continue until your arm can barely lift the whip, until your legs tremble on the verge of collapse. Only then does the abbot step forward, taking the bloody instrument from your hand. May God show mercy to your corrupted soul, he pronounces loud enough for all to hear. The spectacle concluded, the crowd begins to disperse. The entertainment over, they return to their daily lives, carrying tales of the fallen nun to spread over dinner tables and ale benches. The nuns lead you back toward the convent, but Mother Agnes steps forward, blocking the path. Not that way, she says coldly. Your presence would defile holy ground. You stare at her in confusion, blood still running down your back, legs barely supporting your weight. You are cast out, she continues, satisfaction evident in her thin smile. Banished, you will not set foot in the convent again. The reality of your situation crashes over you. Not just humiliated, but homeless. Not just punished, but abandoned, with nothing but the clothes on your back, now torn and bloodied, and the unwanted life growing inside you. Where am I to go? You ask, your voice a rasp. That, says Mother Agnes, is no longer our concern. The nuns turn as one, a black tide receding, leaving you alone in the village square. Blood drips slowly onto the dirt beneath your feet. The last stragglers among the villagers avoid your gaze, hurrying past as if misfortune might be contagious. You stand there swaying slightly, uncertain which direction to even begin walking. Every path seems to lead nowhere. Every future you can imagine ends in suffering or death. In the distance, church bells ring, calling the faithful to prayer. The same bells that woke you at for each morning. The same bells that structured your days of captivity. Now they toll for others. Their sound a reminder of all you've lost and all that was taken from you. You take one step, then another, away from the convent, away from the village that watched your humiliation with hungry eyes, away from the father who sold you for ale money and couldn't even bear to watch your punishment to its end. Where you're going, you have no idea, but standing still means death. So you keep moving one painful step after another into an uncertain future. The village streets feel foreign now. You once belonged here, once knew every corner, once greeted neighbors who smiled in return. Now you're a ghost drifting through familiar places made strange by rejection. Your back throbs with each step, the wounds from the public whipping still fresh and untreated. Blood has dried in stiff patches on your habit, the only clothing you possess. Your shaved head has grown out just enough to cover your scalp with dark fuzz, marking you clearly as a former nun. There's no hiding what you are. Night approaches. You have nowhere to go. Your father's house is technically closest, but the memory of his face in the crowd, the shame and disgust before he turned away, tells you all you need to know. Still, what choice do you have? Sleep in the street like a dog. The small house looks just as you remember it. Smoke curls from the chimney, light flickers in the single window. You hesitate at the door, hand raised to knock, courage faltering. Before you can decide, the door swings open. Your father stands there, swaying slightly, eyes widening in shock at the sight of you. You, he says, the single word heavy with accusation. What do you want, father? You begin, voice cracking. I have nowhere to go. Please. He studies you, gaze lingering on your bloodied back, your simple habit, the slight swell of your belly barely visible beneath the loose fabric. You failed, God, he says flatly. You failed us. You're no daughter of mine. The door slams shut, just like that. The final rejection, the last tie severed. You stand there, staring at the wooden planks, feeling nothing and everything at once. Tears threaten, but you blink them away. Crying won't help. Nothing will help except surviving somehow, 1 hour at a time. Night deepens around you as you wander the village outskirts. The spring air holds a chill that seeps into your bones, made worse by hunger and exhaustion. Eventually, you find yourself at the edge of a field, an old barn standing dark against the starry sky. The barn door cracks as you push it open. Inside smells of hay and animals, not entirely unpleasant after months of stone and incense. You collapse in a corner, burrowing into loose straw for warmth, your body finally surrendering to exhaustion. Morning comes too soon, announced by the farm's rooster and the sound of approaching footsteps. You scramble upright, hay sticking to your blood-rusted habit as the farmer pushes open the barn door. His surprise at finding you quickly turns to anger. Get out, he shouts, grabbing a pitchfork. Stealing my shelter after disgracing yourself before the whole village. Please, you try to explain. Just for one night, I'll work. I can help with anything. His wife appears behind him, her face hardening as she recognizes you. The fallen nun, she says, making the sign of the cross. No wonder our cow's milk soured overnight. Your sin pollutes everything it touches. There's no reasoning with superstition or fear. You back away, hands raised, and hurry from the property before the pitchfork becomes more than a threat. The next 3 days follow a similar pattern. Nowhere welcomes you. The bakery where you once received extra treats now refuses to sell you even a crust. The well where village women gather falls silent when you approach, resuming conversation only after you've taken your water and moved away. Hunger becomes your constant companion. Your pregnant body demands nourishment that you can't provide. You resort to searching through kitchen scraps tossed behind houses, competing with stray dogs and rats for anything edible. On the fourth night, rain drives you to seek shelter beneath the overhang of the tavern roof. You huddle against the wall, trying to become invisible as patrons come and go. Snatches of conversation reach you, including your own name mentioned with scorn and crude jokes. Got what she deserved. That one, always too proud of her pretty face. Bet she's not so lovely now, is she? Wonder which man got under her habit. 5 coppers says it was the blacksmith's son. Nah, probably some traveller, someone who didn't know better. Their laughter cuts deeper than you'd like to admit. These people once knew you, once greeted your father with respect, once commented on your beauty, once considered you a potential wife for their sons. Now you're just entertainment, a cautionary tale to frighten daughters into obedience. A serving girl emerges from the tavern's back door, emptying a bucket of kitchen scraps onto the muddy ground. She notices you huddled against the wall and pauses, recognition flickering in her eyes. Are you hungry? She asks quietly, glancing back to ensure no one watches. You nod, pride long abandoned. She reaches into her apron pocket and pulls out a small chunk of bread slightly burned on one edge. Cook was going to throw it out anyway, she explains, pressing it into your hand. Thank you, you whisper, already breaking off a piece to put in your mouth. The bread is still warm, the first proper food you've had in days. I can't help more, she says apologetically. They'd sack me if they knew. This is enough, you assure her, savoring each crumb. Truly, she hesitates, then adds, try the manor house up the north road. They're looking for kitchen help. They don't ask many questions if you're willing to do the worst jobs. With that small kindness, she disappears back inside, leaving you with renewed hunger once the bread is gone, but also with something almost like hope. The manor house sits on a low hill overlooking the village, home to a minor lord whose name you've heard, but whose face you've never seen. Stone walls surround it, a statement of power in a world of wooden dwellings. The kitchen entrance, your destination, lies around back, marked by woodsome smoke and the smell of roasting meat that makes your stomach clench painfully. The kitchen hums with activity when you arrive. Servants rush about preparing the day's meals, paying little attention to a ragged figure at the doorway. Eventually, a large woman with flour-dusted arms notices you. What do you want? She demands, hands on hips. We've no scraps to give away. I heard you need help, you reply. I can work any task. She looks you up and down, taking in your blood-stained habit, your growing belly, your exhausted face. Under normal circumstances, she'd probably send you away immediately, but her kitchen seems understaffed, pots bubbling unattended, tasks clearly backing up. Can you scrub? She asks finally. Yes, anything, she snorts. We'll see about that. Come in then before you scare the quality with your appearance. The kitchen's warmth envelops you. The first true warmth you've felt since leaving the convent. The cook, who introduces herself simply as Marta, points to a pile of blackened pots. Clean those first, then we'll see. You tackle the task with energy born of desperation. Months of scrubbing convent floors on your knees have given you unexpected preparation for kitchen drudgery. The pots shine when you finish your raw hands, a small price for the chance to earn your place. Marta inspects your work with grudging approval. Not bad. What's your name, girl? You hesitate. Your name carries your past with it now, tainted by public shame. Agnes, you lie, borrowing your tormentor's name with bitter irony. If Marta suspects the falsehood, she doesn't comment. Well, Agnes, I can offer you meals and a corner in the storeroom in exchange for work. But know this, her voice drops. If you steal, if you cause trouble, if you bring shame on this household, you're gone. No second chances. I understand, you say, and you do. This tenuous opportunity is the closest thing to mercy you're likely to find. And that, she adds, nodding toward your swelling belly, will need addressing when the time comes. It won't interfere with my work until then, you promise. See that it doesn't. And so begins your new life as a manor house drudge. Your duties quickly expand beyond cleaning pots to include the most undesirable tasks in the household. Emptying chamber pots, scrubbing privies, hauling waste to the midden heap, cleaning the worst kitchen spills. Anything too disgusting for regular servants falls to you. But there are compensations. Regular meals, even if they're just leftovers and burnt edges, a dry place to sleep in the storeroom corner with actual blankets, a roof over your head, safety from the elements and from villagers' scorn. The other servants largely ignore you, maintaining distance from the fallen nun who's clearly brought shame upon herself. But they don't actively torment you either, too busy with their own duties to waste energy on cruelty. Weeks pass. Your body changes more noticeably, the new life within making its presence known despite inadequate nourishment and harsh conditions. You work until your back aches, until your feet swell, until Marta herself occasionally tells you to sit down before you collapse. No good to me unconscious, she says gruffly, pushing a mug of watery ale your way. Rest a moment. These small kindnesses sustain you. Not friendship, not acceptance, but the bare minimum of human acknowledgement. After what you've endured, even this feels like luxury. Spring advances towards summer. The manor house buzzes with activity as the Lord prepares for visitors. Nobles from nearby estates gathering for some celebration. The work intensifies, every surface needing cleaning, every chamber pot requiring more frequent emptying, every privy demanding scrubbing. You ree on your knees cleaning the floor beneath a privy seat when you overhear two serving girls gossiping in the corridor outside. They say there's sickness in the eastern villages. One says, terrible fever, black swellings. Most who catch it die within days. Just peasant talk, the other dismisses. There's always some sickness or other. Not like this. My cousin's husband travelled to market there. Says whole families are dying, bodies piled in the streets because there's no one healthy enough to bury them. You pause in your scrubbing, a chill running through you despite the summer warmth. Plague. It must be. You've heard tales all your life, stories of the great sickness that swept through lands far away, killing countless souls. But that was generations ago, or in distant countries. Not here, not now. The conversation moves on to more immediate concerns about the upcoming feast. But the seed of worry has been planted. Over the next several days, you hear more whispers, more villagers affected, the sickness spreading westward, people fleeing, carrying disease with them. The lord of the manor seems unconcerned, proceeding with plans for entertaining his noble friends. The common folk's suffering rarely troubles those in power until it reaches their doorstep. One morning, as you empty kitchen slot buckets at the midden heap, you notice unusual activity at the manor gates. A group of ragged people huddle there, pleading with the guards, who hold them back with spears. Please, our village is dying. We have nowhere else to go. Lord's orders, a guard replies flatly. No strangers admitted, especially not from plague villages. We're not sick. We left before it came. That's what they all say. Move on before we make you. You watch, hidden behind the midden heap, as the desperate group eventually gives up and continues down the road. Their faces haunt you. The same fear, the same homelessness you experienced when cast out from the convent. That night, the first noble guests arrive for the feast. Your workload doubles, then triples. The fine lords and ladies go through chamber pots at an alarming rate, their bodily functions apparently enhanced by excessive wine and rich food. You're running yourself ragged, keeping up with demands, your pregnant body protesting the strain. Marta notices, occasionally sending others to help with the heaviest tasks, though she'd never admit to showing consideration. "Don't drop dead in my kitchen," she mutters, when you stumble from exhaustion. The paperwork would be intolerable. 3 days into the gathering of nobles, the first case appears within the manor. A kitchen boy, feverish and complaining of pain in his armpits. By evening, black swellings have appeared. By morning, he's dead. Panic erupts. Nobles packed their belongings, fleeing back to their own estates, despite the Lord's protests that it's surely just a common egg. Not the dreaded plague, servants desert their posts, risking punishment rather than remaining in what rapidly becomes a death house. Within days, the manor's population has halved. Those too loyal or too fearful to leave watch each other with suspicious eyes, monitoring for the first signs of illness. You consider running, too, but where would you go? The countryside teems with desperate homeless people fleeing the spreading sickness. The villagers bar their gates against strangers. The roads are dangerous for anyone, let alone a pregnant woman alone. So you stay continuing your work as the household crumbles around you. The privies still need cleaning. The chamber pots still need emptying. If anything, the work increases as more servants vanish. Marta remains as well, her kitchen now staffed by just 3 people instead of 12. Plague or no plague, people need to eat, she says pragmatically, and I'm too old to start running now. You admire her stoicism, her refusal to bow to fear. Perhaps, after a lifetime of hard work and limited options, one threat looks much like another. The sickness spreads through the manor house like fire through dry grass. Footmen, housemaids, stable boys, even the steward falls ill. His authoritative voice reduced to delirious mumblings before silence claims him altogether. The lord and his immediate family lock themselves in the manor's east wing, refusing contact with anyone except a few trusted servants. Food is left outside their doors. Messages passed under them, no direct interaction permitted. You and Marta keep the kitchen running somehow, preparing simple meals for the dwindling household. The work is endless, exhausting, but strangely purposeful. You're needed now in a way you never were in the convent. Your labor directly supporting survival rather than arbitrary rules. Why do you stay? You ask Marta one night as you both collapse at the kitchen table, too tired even to reach your sleeping quarters. You could have gone with the others. She gives you a long look, her weathered face unreadable in the candlelight. Been with this household 30 years. Where would I go that's any safer? She pushes a chunk of bread your way. Besides, someone has to make sure you don't birth that babe into a world with no food prepared. The gruff statement, the closest to explicit care she's ever expressed, brings unexpected tears to your eyes. You blink them away quickly, focusing on the bread. "Thank you," you say simply. She grunts in acknowledgement. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow won't be easier." She's right. The next day brings news that the Lord himself has fallen ill. The East Wing, supposedly the safe haven, has been breached by invisible death. His wife and children remain healthy for now, but terror grips the household at the realization that rank offers no protection against plague. The few remaining servants are summoned to help care for the sick. Not you, of course. The fallen pregnant nun is hardly considered suitable for attending nobility. Instead, your duties expand to cover the work of those now nursing the Lord's family. It's while emptying chamber pots in the servants' quarters that you first notice the symptom. A tenderness under your arm, painful when you reach up to place a pot on its shelf. Probably just a strain from overwork, you tell yourself, your body protesting the endless lifting, carrying, scrubbing. By evening, you can no longer deny it. Heat courses through your body. The tenderness has become a distinct swelling. Your head pounds. Your heart races. Each breath feels like drawing fire into your lungs. You've seen enough cases now to recognize the signs. The plague has found you, too. You don't tell Marta. What good would it do? There's no treatment, no cure, just isolation and waiting for death or unlikely recovery. Instead, you retreat to your storeroom corner when your work is done, wrapping yourself in blankets despite the fever burning through you. Sleep eludes you as pain grows throughout the night. The baby moves restlessly within, as if sensing your body's battle. You place a hand on your swollen belly, feeling the kicks against your palm. "I'm sorry," you whisper in the darkness. "I tried to give you a chance. Morning brings no relief." Somehow you force yourself up, moving through kitchen duties like a ghost, hoping no one notices your flushed face, your trembling hands. Marta gives you concerned glances, but asks no questions, perhaps fearing the answers. By midday, simply standing becomes nearly impossible. The world tilts and spins around you. The pain under your arm has become excruciating, the swelling now visibly distorting your habit. You're scrubbing the main hall floor. When consciousness finally deserts you, the brush slips from your grasp. The stone rushes up to meet you. Darkness swallows everything. You wake to find yourself in an unfamiliar room, lying on an actual bed. Confusion clouds your thoughts until you recognize your surroundings. The man's sick room where infected servants are placed to either recover or die safely away from the healthy. Marta sits beside the bed, her usual stern expression replaced by something almost like concern. "About time," she says, seeing your open eyes. "Thought you might sleep straight through to Judgment Day." "How long?" Your voice emerges as a rasp. "Day and a half." She offers a cup of water, helping you lift your head to drink. You should have said something. Wouldn't have changed anything. She can't argue with that truth. Well, you're still alive. That's more than most can say after this long with the fever. You try to sit up, but your body refuses to cooperate. Every muscle aches. Your head pounds with each heartbeat. The swelling under your arm throbs in rhythm. "The baby," you manage to ask. "Still moving," I checked. Marta's hand briefly touches your forehead, checking for fever. You're both fighters, it seems. The observation strikes you as strangely accurate. You have fought against your father's neglect, against the convent's cruelty, against Father Bernard's violation, against the village's rejection. You're still fighting now, your body battling invisible enemies, while sustaining another life. The next few days pass in fevered confusion. You drift between consciousness and delirium, sometimes aware of Marta or other survivors tending to you, sometimes lost in nightmares, where Mother Agnes watches you suffer with satisfaction, where Father Bernard lurks in shadows, where your own father turns away again and again. The plague takes its toll on your already weakened body. The fever burns through what little reserves you have. The pain intensifies until you pray for unconsciousness. The baby's movements grow weaker, less frequent. In rare lucid moments, you hear updates on the manor's situation. The Lord is dead. His eldest son as well. His wife and younger children have fled to a country estate, abandoning the sick to their fate. Half the remaining servants have perished. The survivors consider each day alive a victory against diminishing odds. On what Marta tells you is the 5th day of your illness, something changes. The fever breaks during the night, leaving you drenched in sweat, but clear-headed for the first time in days. The pain remains, but duller, more distant. The swelling has begun to recede. You might actually survive this, Marta says the next morning. Genuine surprise in her voice. Most don't, you know, especially not in your condition. Hope feels dangerous, a luxury you've learned to live without. But your body tells a different story. Strength gradually returns. The fever doesn't come back. The swelling continues to shrink. The baby resumes its vigorous kicking as if making up for lost time. Within a week, you're able to sit up, then stand, then slowly resume light duties. The manor house has become a shadow of itself. Rooms closed off, furniture covered, most positions vacant. But the core functions continue through the efforts of survivors like you and Marta. What happens now, you ask her? One evening, as summer begins its transition toward autumn. When the plague passes, she shrugs, her practical nature focused on immediate concerns rather than future uncertainties. Life goes on for those still breathing. The Lord's second son will inherit. New servants will be hired. The dead will be forgotten faster than you'd think. And me. You place a hand on your belly, now large enough to make work increasingly difficult. What happens when Martre's eyes soften marginally? We'll manage. I've delivered my share of babies in my time. Not my first emergency midwifery, won't be my last. The simple statement, the inclusion of your situation in her plans, feels like more acceptance than you've known since before the convent. Not judgment or disgust, just practical acknowledgement of reality and needs. Thank you, you say, the words inadequate for the gratitude you feel. Don't thank me yet, she replies with grim humor. Childbirth's no picnic in the best circumstances. In times of plague, with your body still recovering, she shakes her head. Save your thanks for when you're both still alive afterward. Her bluntness doesn't frighten you. After all you've endured, the prospect of pain holds little terror. What truly frightens you is what comes after. Raising a child in a world that's already rejected you both. Finding a way forward when all paths seem blocked. But that's a fear for tomorrow. For now, you have survived plague, starvation, and homelessness. You have found a sort of sanctuary, tenuous though it may be. You have people like Marta who see you as human despite your supposed sins. It's not much, but after months of loss and suffering, even this small foothold in life feels like victory. Autumn arrives with red gold leaves and cool mornings. In normal times, the manor would buzz with harvest preparations, the kitchen storing food for winter, servants airing heavy blankets and stoking larger fires. But these aren't normal times. The plague has transformed everything. The village below the manor lies half empty, doors marked with crosses, windows shuttered. The fields stand partly harvested, crops rotting where there aren't enough healthy bodies to gather them. The roads see more funeral carts than traders' wagons. You've regained enough strength to resume most duties, though you're advancing pregnancy limits, what you can physically manage. 7 months along now, your body a strange contradiction, creating life while surrounded by death. The manor's population has stabilized at about 1/3 of its original size. Those who survived the first wave of illness seem somewhat protected, though no one knows why. New cases still appear occasionally, but far fewer than before. Marta rules the kitchen with the same iron discipline despite reduced circumstances. People still need to eat remains, her mantra. But even her practical nature can't ignore the world crumbling around you. More refugees at the North Gate, she tells you one morn. Whole family this time, children too. The manor has become a beacon for the desperate. People fleeing villages where plague has taken most residents. They come seeking shelter, food, safety. Most are turned away by the few remaining guards following standing orders from the absent lady of the house. Will they let them in, you ask, though you already know the answer? Marta snorts. What do you think? Lady's orders stand. No outsiders. You focus on the dough beneath your hands, pressing perhaps harder than necessary. The injustice burns, especially knowing how much space lies empty in this massive house, how much food remains in the star rooms, while people starve outside the gates. It's not right, you say finally. Right's got nothing to do with it, never has. Marta checks the fire under a simmering pot, especially not for common folk like us. You've learned this lesson repeatedly, from your father selling you to the convent, from Father Bernard's violation, from the villagers' rejection. The powerful write the rules to protect themselves, not to dispense justice. Later that day, carrying kitchen slops to the midden heap, you detour slightly to pass near the North Gate. The refugee family still waits there, huddled against the stone wall. A mother, father, and 3 small children. Their possessions reduced to a single cart. The youngest child cries weakly, a sound that twists something in your chest. The guards keep their distance, spears held ready as if poverty and desperation might be contagious. You recognize one, William, a young man who occasionally brings game to the kitchen. They're still here, you ask him quietly, nodding toward the family. William shrugs uncomfortably. Got nowhere else to go, do they? Every village has barred its gates. Every manor follows the same rules. They have children, you point out needlessly. I know, his face shows genuine regret, but orders are orders. Lady says, no strangers, especially not from plague villages. You study the family more closely. The mother rocks her crying child, face hollow with hunger and worry. The father stands protectively, though he looks barely strong enough to remain upright. The 2 older children sit silently on the cart, eyes huge in gaunt faces. Are they sick? You ask William. Not that we can see, but that doesn't mean much with plague. Could be carrying it without showing yet. He's right, of course, you know this from bitter experience. Still, watching a family with children turned away to almost certain death feels like another failure in a world already drowning in them. When do you finish your watch? You ask suddenly. William gives you a puzzled look. Sundown. Why? Just wondering. You adjust your grip on the slop bucket. See you at supper. You return to the kitchen, mind working on a plan that's probably foolish, but feels necessary nonetheless. The family might indeed carry plague. They might bring death into the manor, but leaving children to starve feels like a sin greater than any the convent accused you of. That evening, after kitchen duties finish, you gather what you can without being obvious. A small loaf of bread, cheese rind, apple cores, a flag of water rail, nothing that will be missed immediately, nothing that would be served to the quality anyway. Marta watches your preparations with knowing eyes, but says nothing either in support or condemnation. Her silence feels like permission, or at least acceptance of your decision. I won't be long, you tell her, tucking the food into a cloth bundle. Be careful, is all she says. That child needs you alive. The reference to your unborn baby nearly breaks your resolve. What right do you have to risk its future? But then you think of those hollow-eyed children at the gate, and your path becomes clear again. twilight provides cover as you slip through the kitchen garden, taking a rarely used path that circles toward the north gate. William's watch has ended, replaced by an older guard who's known for dozing at his post. Even so, you stay hidden among shadows, moving slowly to avoid drawing attention. The refugee family has created a makeshift camp against the manor wall, a short distance from the gate, where the guards can still see them, but aren't bothered by proximity. A small fire burns, barely enough for warmth, let alone cooking. You approach cautiously, not wanting to frighten them. "Hello," you call softly when you're close enough. "I brought food." The father leaps up, grabbing a stick, their only weapon. The mother clutches her children closer. Fear and suspicion replace the earlier desperation in their faces. "I'm from the manor kitchen," you explain, keeping your distance and holding out the bundle. Not much, but it might help. Suspicion gradually gives way to desperate hope. The father lowers his stick, approaching cautiously to take the offered bundle. "Why?" he asks simply, the first word any of them has spoken to you. So many possible answers. Because once you were hungry, too. Because no child deserves starvation. Because whatever sins adults commit, children bear no guilt. Because somewhere, despite everything, you still believe helping others matters. Because someone once helped me, you say finally, when no one else would. Understanding passes between you, the recognition of shared suffering, of being at the world's mercy. He nods once, then returns to his family, opening the bundle with hands that tremble slightly. The children fall upon the food with frightening eagerness, their mother attempting to slow them to ensure equal sharing. You watch briefly, then slip away before the guard notices your presence. This becomes your new routine. By day, you work in the kitchen, gathering scraps and leftovers without attracting notice. By evening, you deliver what little you can to the family at the gate. It's never enough. Barely sustenance, but it keeps them alive. For days pass this way. The family remains at the gate, though other refugees have given up and moved on, seeking shelter elsewhere before winter arrives. You learn their names: Edith the mother, John the father, and the children Ellen, Peter, and baby Alice. They fled their village after half the population succumbed to plague, including John's parents and brothers. On the fifth evening, you arrive with your usual bundle to find chaos. Baby Alice has developed fever. The guards have backed further away, crossing themselves and muttering about plague. Edith rocks her wailing infant, tears streaming down her face. How long, you ask, keeping a cautious distance yourself? Surviving plague once doesn't guarantee immunity, as the manor has learned with several reinfections. Since midday, John answers, his voice flat with despair. Started with fever, now she won't nurse. You know what this means, what likely comes next. The familiar progression of plague symptoms. Fever, pain, swellings, death. You've seen it dozens of times now. You should take the others and go, you tell him quietly. Find somewhere to wait out the sickness. He shakes his head. We stay together, all of us. It's suicide, almost certainly. If baby Alice has plague, the others will likely contract it too, especially in such close quarters. But you understand his choice. What future do Ellen and Peter have alone if their parents abandon their sister and flee? You return to the manor, heart heavy with the knowledge that your small mercies have likely only prolonged inevitable suffering. The kitchen feels stifling despite the cool evening. Martre's concerned gaze following your movements. The baby's sick, you tell her simply. Fever, she nods, requiring no further explanation. Nothing to be done then. But that night, lying on your storeroom pallet, your own child active within. You can't accept that fatalism. There must be something, some way to help, even if it can't prevent the inevitable. The next morning brings news that changes everything. The lady of the manor with her surviving children will return within days. Preparations must begin immediately to make the house suitable for their arrival after months away. All hands needed, the steward announces to the assembled household. Every chamber cleaned, every surface scrubbed. Nothing must remind the lady of the sickness that took her husband and son. The timing couldn't be worse. Baby Alice's condition has worsened, according to Marta, who checked while collecting eggs from the henhouse near the north gate. The swellings have appeared, the unmistakable sign of plague. The family needs help now more than ever, but your duties will keep you fully occupied within the manor. Or perhaps not. The privies need thorough cleaning, the steward continues, assigning tasks. Agnes, that falls to you naturally. You nod, accepting the lowliest job without complaint. The privies are located at the manor's edge, some distance from the main building, offering privacy for their unpleasant function, and crucially not far from the north gate. As soon as the household disperses to their tasks, you collect cleaning supplies and head for the privies. But instead of beginning work immediately, you continue past them toward the gate, moving quickly while no one watches. The family situation has deteriorated overnight. Baby Alice lies unnaturally still in Edith's arms, her tiny face flushed with fever. John looks feverish himself now, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool morning. Ellen and Peter huddled together, watching their sister with terrified eyes. I can help, you say, approaching despite the obvious danger. I've tended plague victims before. You're with child, Edith protests weakly. You shouldn't risk yourself. I've had the plague already and survived, you explain, kneeling beside them. Let me help ease her suffering, at least. You've learned much from watching Beatrice in the convent infirmary, and from the manor's experience with plague. Most cases end in death, but comfort can be provided. Cool cloths for fever, small sips of water, herbal mixtures that sometimes ease pain. You share these simple techniques with Edith, showing her how to keep Alice comfortable, even if cure is impossible. I have to return before I'm missed, you tell them finally, but I'll bring more food tonight and herbs from the kitchen garden. John catches your hand as you rise to leave. Why risk yourself for strangers? The question strikes deep. Why indeed? Perhaps because helping others feels like reclaiming something the convent tried to take from you. Your humanity, your capacity for compassion without judgment. Because we're all we have, you answer simply. People like us. You hurry back to the privies, working frantically to make up for lost time. The physical labor is punishing in your condition. But the alternative being discovered neglecting duties would mean dismissal, leaving the refugee family without even your meager help. This pattern continues for 3 days. You split your time between manor duties and helping the family, bringing food, herbs, cool water from the kitchen. Well, baby Alice neither improves nor dies, hanging in a terrible limbo of fever and pain. John definitely has plague now. The characteristic swellings visible beneath his arms. Edith shows early symptoms: headache, fatigue, fever beginning. Only Ellen and Peter remain healthy, though fear has made them silent shadows of normal children. They help as they can, fetching water from a nearby stream, tending the small fire, watching the road for danger when their parents are too ill. On the 4th day, everything changes. You arrive at your morning privy cleaning duty to find John unconscious, Edith barely able to sit upright, and baby Alice unnaturally still in her makeshift cradle. She died during the night, Ellen tells you, her young voice steady in that unnatural way children adopt during crisis. Father won't wake up. Mother can't stand anymore. You check each of them, heart sinking at what you find. John likely won't last the day. Edith might have another day or two. Baby Alice's tiny body is already growing cold. What about you and Peter? You ask, checking them for symptoms. Any fever, headaches, pain under your arms? Both shake their heads, but that means little. The plague often hides before striking. They could be healthy today and fevered tomorrow. A terrible choice faces you. Leave them here to almost certain death, or find some way to bring them into the manor where they might have a chance, however slim. The lady's impending return makes the second option even more dangerous. Discovery would mean instant dismissal at best, possible violence at worst. But looking at these children, Ellen perhaps 8, Peter maybe 5, the choice feels clear. Despite the risk, listen carefully, you tell them, decision made. I'm going to help you get inside the manor. You'll need to hide in the old storage room near the kitchen. It's not used now since the household is so reduced. Ellen's eyes widen inside the walls, but the guards will go around through the kitchen garden. There's a small gate that cooks use for herbs. It's rarely watched. What about mother and father? Peter asks, his small voice trembling. And Alice, the question breaks your heart. How do you explain to children that they must leave their family behind? They're too sick to move, you say gently. We'll make them comfortable first, bring them water and food. But you two need shelter, safety. Ellen, young but old, beyond her years through hardship, understands what you're not saying. They're going to die, aren't they? You can't lie, not about this. Yes, probably soon. I'm sorry, she nods, taking her brother's hand. Then we need to say goodbye first. You give them privacy for this impossible moment, busying yourself preparing John and Edith as comfortably as possible with the limited supplies available. Extra blankets from your own pallet, all the remaining food, a skin of water placed within reach. When the children return, their faces are tear-streaked, but composed with that eerie calm crisis creates in the young. Ready, you ask softly. They nod, taking one last look at their parents and baby sister before following you toward the manor's side wall where the kitchen garden provides cover. Sneaking two children into a guarded manor would normally be impossible, but plague has changed everything. Half the usual watchmen are dead. Those remaining focus on the main gates, rarely bothering with the small gardener's entrance beside the kitchen. Still, your heart pounds painfully as you lead Ellen and Peter through the herb garden, past the henhouse, and finally through the small wooden gate that leads to the kitchen yard. A servant crosses the yard just as you reach the gate, and you freeze, pulling the children into the shadow of the wall until he passes. Almost there, you whisper, "The storage room is just past the kitchen. Follow me, and if anyone sees us, let me do the talking." The last stretch feels endless, but finally you reach the small room off the kitchen corridor, once used for surplus supplies, now emptied by months of reduced circumstances. Dusty and plain, but dry, relatively warm, and most importantly, safe from immediate danger. You'll need to stay quiet, you tell them once the door closes behind you. I'll bring food when I can, but it might not be regular. If you hear anyone coming, hide behind those barrels. The children nod solemnly, already adapting to their new reality, with the resilience only the young possess. What about your baby? Ellen asks suddenly, pointing to your swollen belly. When it comes, will it stay here too? The innocent question strikes you speechless. In the chaos of helping others, you've pushed aside thoughts of your own impending challenge. Giving birth in a world ravaged by plague, with no family, no real position, no security for your child. I don't know, you admit finally, but we'll figure something out together. You leave them with promises to return soon, hurrying back to the privies to complete your neglected duties before anyone notices your absence. The work is harder than ever. Your back aching constantly now, your body protesting the combination of pregnancy and physical labor. But as you scrub and haul and empty, your mind keeps returning to Ellen's question. What will happen when your baby arrives? Marta has promised help with the birth itself. But after, what kind of life can you provide? What future exists for the child of a disgraced nun in a world decimated by plague? The same questions must have haunted Edith and John as they watched their baby daughter sicken, as they felt the fever rising in their own bodies. What happens to our children when we can no longer protect them? By evening, you're exhausted beyond measure, but your first priority is the children hidden in the storage room. You manage to smuggle bread, cheese, and apples from the kitchen, while Marta deliberately looks the other way, her silent complicity a gift you don't question. The children fall upon the food with restrained eagerness, clearly starving, but disciplined enough to eat slowly, to save portions for later. Their parents taught them well, prepared them for a harsh world as best they could. I need to check on your parents, you tell them after they've eaten. I'll try to return before morning. They might already be dead, Ellen says with that terrible matter-of-factness. Father wasn't breathing right when we left. Even so, I need to know and to take care of things if necessary. What you don't say is that bodies can't be left near the manor gates. That discovery of plague victims outside the walls would cause panic. Perhaps a search that might reveal the hidden children. The journey back to the north gate through gathering darkness feels longer. Your body leaned with exhaustion, your mind clouded with worry. When you reach the small camp, your worst fears are confirmed. John lies still, eyes open, but unseeing, the plague having finished its work. Edith still breathes, but just barely, unresponsive to your voice or touch. Baby Alice's tiny form remains in her makeshift cradle, now stiff with the finality of death. You close John's eyes, arrange his limbs more naturally, and cover him with a blanket. For Edith, you moisten her cracked lips with water, though she shows no sign of awareness. Nothing more can be done here, except wait for the inevitable. As you sit beside Edith in the deepening night, your own child moves within, a forceful reminder of life continuing amid so much death. You place a hand on your belly, feeling the strong kicks against your palm. We'll find a way, you whisper, a promise to your unborn child, to the orphaned children hidden in the manor to yourself. Somehow we'll survive this. But as Edith's breathing grows more labored beside you, as the plague continues its relentless spread through the countryside, as winter approaches with its additional hardships, the promise feels impossible to keep. Yet you've survived the impossible before. The convent's cruelty, the public shame, homelessness, plague itself. Perhaps survival itself is the victory in a world where death has become the common language. Edith draws her final breath just before dawn, her face relaxing as suffering ends. You close her eyes, arrange her beside her husband and child, and cover them with the remaining blankets. No proper burial is possible. You lack the strength to dig graves, and calling attention to deaths from plague would endanger the surviving children. This is the reality of plague times. Bodies left where they fall, families separated by death, proper rituals abandoned in favor of survival. The world has changed, perhaps forever. Old rules, old moralities seem to belong to another lifetime. As you make your way back toward the manor in the grey morning light, you accept a truth that's been forming since your expulsion from the convent. The only rules that matter now are those that keep people alive. The only sins that matter are those that harm others. The only virtues worth preserving are compassion, courage, and the willingness to help when it would be easier to turn away. These are the lessons you teach your child, and perhaps Ellen and Peter as well, if all of you survive the winter ahead. Not the rigid dogma of the convent, but the flexible human morality forged in suffering and tempered by mercy. Dawn breaks fully as you slip back into the manor grounds. Another day of work and worry beginning. But something has shifted within you. A resignation to what cannot be changed, and a fierce determination to protect what can still be saved. Winter settles over the countryside like a shroud. Snow blankets the manor grounds, muffling sounds and transforming the plague-ravaged landscape into something almost beautiful. The world goes quiet as if in mourning for all that's been lost. Your days fall into a rhythm of careful balance. Kitchen duties for Marta, cleaning work throughout the manor, and secret care for Ellen and Peter in their hidden room. The children have adapted to confinement with remarkable resilience, keeping silent when others are near, occupying themselves with small tasks you provide, unraveling old rope for new use, sorting dried herbs, mending torn linens. Your body grows heavier with child movement becoming increasingly difficult. 8 months now, perhaps a little more. The baby is active, strong despite everything. Marta watches your struggle with grudging concern. You can't keep going like this, she tells you one evening as you massage your aching lower back. There works too much in your condition. What choice do I have? You ask simply. She has no answer. You both know your position is precarious. The lady of the manor has returned with her surviving children, bringing new servants to replace those lost to plague. Your continued employment depends on usefulness, pregnancy notwithstanding. The lady herself rarely ventures below stairs, her grief for her husband and eldest son keeping her largely confined to her chambers. This isolation has been your salvation, allowing you to maintain the secret of the children and manage your advancing pregnancy without immediate dismissal. But time grows short on multiple fronts. Your body tells you birth isn't far away. The children cannot remain hidden forever, and plague, though slowed by winter, still claims victims weekly. What will you do when the time comes? Marta asks one night as you both sit by the kitchen fire, the day's work finally done with the child. I mean, you've asked yourself this question countless times without finding an answer. I don't know, you admit. I can barely plan for tomorrow, let alone months ahead. The world's no place for a baby with no father, she says, not unkindly, especially now, I know. She studies your face in the firelight. The church orphanage in the next town takes unwanted infants. Most don't survive, but some do. The suggestion feels like a blade between your ribs. Give up your child after everything. Could you do such a thing? Yet what future can you offer instead? A life of poverty and shame, always one misfortune from starvation. I can't think about it yet, you say finally. Let me just survive the birth first. Marta nods, accepting your non-disposal. Well, when it comes, I'll help. Not my first birthing. Thank you. The words feel inadequate for what her support has meant these past months. She waves away your gratitude with characteristic gruffness. Just don't do it in the middle of bread-making gaking day. Timing matters in a kitchen. Her small joke, rare as gemstones from this stern woman, warms you more than the fire. That night, Checking on Ellen and Peter in their hidden room, you find them huddled together beneath blankets, a small candle stub burning beside them. Ellen reads haltingly from a scrap of parchment, part of an old inventory list you brought for her to practice on. You're improving, you tell her, settling awkwardly on a barrel. Your swollen belly making even sitting difficult now. She beams at the praise. Father started teaching me before everything. He said girls should know their letters too, not just boys. He was right. You watch as she carefully folds the precious parchment, treating it like treasure. Your father was a wise man. When's your baby coming? Peter asks suddenly, eyeing your belly with childish curiosity. At 5, the concepts of pregnancy and birth remain mysterious to him. Soon, you tell him, probably before mid. Then what? Ellen asks, the practical one, as always. Will you leave the manor? The question strikes at your greatest fear. Where can you go? What future exists for a disgraced former nun with an illegitimate child? The village would never accept you back. Your father's door remains firmly closed. The roads in winter are deadly, even without plague and banditry to contend with. I don't know yet, you answer honestly. But whatever happens, I'll make sure you too are cared for. It's a promise you're not certain you can keep, but one you intend to honor regardless. These children have lost everything. You won't abandon them now. Days pass. The lady of the manor announces plans for a modest Christmas celebration. The first gathering since plague decimated the household. New servants busy themselves with preparations, cleaning rarely used rooms, airing linens, planning simpler versions of traditional feasts. Your own duties increase accordingly, your body protesting every additional task. The baby has dropped lower, a constant pressure that makes walking difficult. Marta assigns you kitchen work where possible, keeping you off your feet when she can manage it without attracting notice. Any day now, she murmurs, watching you struggle to rise from a chair. Best be prepared. You nod, knowing she's right. You've gathered what meager supplies you can. Clean cloths hidden in your sleeping corner, a small knife sterilized in kitchen fire, strips of linen for swaddling. Not enough, not nearly enough, but the best you can manage. 2 nights before Christmas, the pains begin. Subtle at first, a tightening across your lower back, a cramping sensation that comes and goes. You continue working, saying nothing, hoping perhaps it's a false alarm. By evening, there's no more denying what's happening. The contractions strengthen, becoming regular. You find Marta in the kitchen storeroom taking inventory of spices. It's time, you tell her simply. She nods once, practical as always. Can you walk to your sleeping place, or do you need help? I can walk, but you hesitate, then decide, truth is necessary. Not to my usual corner. There's something you should know. The revelation of Ellen and Peter hiding in the manor doesn't shock her as much as you expected. Perhaps nothing surprises Marta anymore. After all, she's witnessed plague orphans. She confirms, already gathering supplies, clean cloths, hot water, the strong ale kept for medicinal purposes. Their parents died at the north gate. I couldn't leave them. She sighed heavily. More mouths that need feeding. But what's done is done. The storage room, you said. You nod gratefully, understanding that her lack of outrage is its own form of acceptance. The children watch wide-eyed as you enter their hiding place, Marta following with her arms full of birthing supplies. The contractions have intensified, forcing you to pause and breathe through each wave of pain. What's happening? Peter asks, frightened by your obvious distress. The baby's coming, Ellen explains, her young face serious with premature responsibility. Should we leave? No need. Marta answers for you as another contraction claims your attention. You can help. Fetch that bucket of water, and you, boy, sit in the corner and stay quiet. What follows is a night of pain beyond anything you've experienced before. Worse than the convent's punishments, worse than public whipping, worse even than Father Bernard's violation. Your body feels torn apart from within, each contraction building on the last until you're certain you'll die from the agony. Marta proves surprisingly gentle despite her gruff exterior. She guides you through the process with experienced hands, telling you when to push, when to rest, wiping your brow with cool cloths. Ellen assists with quiet efficiency, fetching water, holding your hand, offering encouragement beyond her years. You're doing well, Marta reassures as dawn approaches, your strength nearly gone after hours of labor. The head's visible now, not much longer. With the next contraction, you gather your remaining energy bearing down with every ounce of will left in your exhausted body. Something shifts, releases, and suddenly Marta is holding a squirming, crying infant. A girl, she announces, quickly clearing the baby's mouth and nose. Small but seems strong. She places the infant on your chest. This tiny person created amid so much suffering. Your daughter's face is red and wrinkled, her cries indignant at being thrust into the cold world. But she's perfect, impossibly, miraculously perfect. Hello, little one, you whisper, counting fingers and toes, marveling at the miniature perfection of her features. You made it. The afterbirth delivers without complications. Marta cleans both you and the baby with practiced efficiency, then swaddles the infant in the prepared linens. What will you call her? Ellen asks, her earlier fear replaced with fascination as she studies the newborn. You haven't thought about names, the practicalities of survival consuming all your attention. But looking at your daughter's face, a name comes to you unbidden. Catherine, you decide. After the young nun who died in the convent, whose brief life deserved more remembrance than an unmarked grave behind the north wall. Her name is Catherine. The following days pass in an exhausted blur. Your body slowly begins to recover from the trauma of birth. Little Catherine proves surprisingly sturdy despite her small size, nursing well and crying only when genuinely uncomfortable. Marta arranges for you to remain in the storage room rather than returning to your usual sleeping corner, explaining to anyone who asks that you're ill and potentially contagious. The deception buys precious time for healing, allowing you to care for your newborn and the two orphans away from prying eyes. But this arrangement cannot last indefinitely. The Christmas celebrations have ended, the manor returning to its winter routine. Questions will soon arise about your prolonged absence from duties. We need to make decisions, Marta tells you bluntly one evening. A week after Catherine's birth, about all three children, and you look at Ellen and Peter sleeping in their corner. Then down at Catherine nursing at your breast. 3 children depending on you. 3 futures intertwined with your own uncertain one. What options do we have? You ask, voice low, to avoid waking the children. Marta sits heavily on a barrel. Few and none good. The lady won't allow known orphans to stay, especially not plague orphans, and a newborn without a father. She shakes her head. The church orphanage remains the most likely place. The thought of surrendering any of these children to institutional care makes your chest tighten painfully. You've seen how the church treats those in its power. The convent taught you that lesson thoroughly. There must be another way, you insist. Perhaps. Marta looks uncharacteristically hesitant. I have a sister, lives in a village 3 days' journey south. Her husband died years ago, but she maintains a small farm. Always wanted children, but never had any. Hope flickers faintly. Would she take them in? Possibly. 3 is many, but she's lonely, and extra hands on a farm are always useful, even young ones. Marta studies your face. You could go to ICD, she'd make room. The unexpected suggestion renders you momentarily speechless. A place for all of you. A chance at something like a normal life. It seems too good to be possible after all you've endured. Why would she accept a disgraced nun and 3 children, not her own? You ask finally. Marta's weathered face softens slightly. Because I'd ask it of her, and because good people still exist, even in these times. Tears threaten the first you've allowed yourself in months. When could we go? When you're stronger, spring would be safest for travel with little ones. I can send word, meanwhile, make arrangements. The plan, tentative as it is, gives you something precious. Hope, a future beyond mere survival. A chance for these children to grow up somewhere safe with enough food and no constant hiding. But winter has other plans. 2 days later, a serving boy falls ill with telltale plague symptoms. Then a scullery maid. Then one of the lady's personal attendants. The sickness, temporarily slowed by cold weather, returns with renewed vigor, tearing through the manor's population. Fear grips the household. The lady retreats to isolated chambers with her children, allowing no contact. Half the servants flee despite winter conditions. Those remaining maintain desperate distance from each other, watching for symptoms with paranoid vigilance. You know what's coming even before Marta confirms it. They need someone to tend the sick, she tells you grimly. Someone who survived plague before. The lady's asking for volunteers. No one will volunteer. Of course, no sane person approaches plague victims willingly, but you've already had the sickness and lived. You're one of the few with experience caring for the infected. Your position is tenuous at best, especially now with a newborn to explain. They'll force me if I don't volunteer, you conclude. Marta doesn't deny it. Likely so. What about Catherine and the children? I'll watch them when I can. They're safer hidden anyway. The choice isn't really a choice at all. By midday, you're assigned to the manor's makeshift infirmary, a separate building normally used for storing grain, now filled with pallets for the growing number of sick. The work is grim and familiar, changing soiled bedding, providing water to parched lips, applying cool cloths to fevered brows, listening to the delirious ramblings of the dying, removing bodies when breath finally ceases. You return to Catherine and the children only when absolutely necessary to feed your infant daughter, to bring food to Ellen and Peter, to snatch brief periods of rest. Even these visits carry risk, potentially bringing contagion to the healthy children. Are you going to get sick again? Ellen asks one night, watching you nurse Catherine with worried eyes. I hope not, you answer truthfully. Some who've had plague don't get it again, but others do. What happens if you get sick? Always practical. This child forced to grow up too quickly. You have no comforting answer. Marta would help you, and we'd find a way to get you to a sister's farm when spring comes. Ellen nods solemnly, accepting this uncertain future as children must in a world that offers no guarantees. Days blur together as the plague claims more victims. Your body, still recovering from childbirth, struggles with the constant physical demands. Sleep becomes a luxury, snatched in brief moments between caring for the sick and tending to the children. Perhaps it's this exhaustion that delays your recognition of symptoms in yourself. The headache you attribute to lack of sleep, the body aches to postpartum recovery, the fatigue to overwork. But when the telltale swelling appears beneath your arm, there's no more denying the truth. The plague has found you again. You say nothing at first, continuing your duties while you can still stand. The sick need care regardless of your own condition. Catherine needs milk while you can still provide it. Ellen and Peter need whatever stability you can maintain, Marta notices. Of course, her sharp eyes miss little. How long? She asks bluntly when she finds you leaning against a wall, fighting dizziness. 2 days, maybe 3, you admit. The swelling started yesterday. She mutters something that might be a prayer or a curse. You need to rest. Let someone else tend the sick. There is no one else. Those healthy enough to work are needed for essential manner functions. Those with plague resistance are few and already assigned to the infirmary. Your children need you alive, she reminds you. I know the fever makes your thoughts slow, muddy, but I've survived it once. Perhaps I will again. You both know the odds. Second infections are often worse than first ones, especially in bodies already weakened by other stresses. Your survival of plague once was remarkable. Twice would be miraculous. Still, you fight for Catherine, for Ellen and Peter, for the future that briefly seemed possible. You continue working until your legs literally give way beneath you, collapsing while carrying water to a fevered maid. After that, there's no more pretending. They carry you to a pallet in the infirmary. Now a caregiver, become patient. The fever rages higher. The pain intensifies. Your thoughts scatter and reform like disturbed ashes. In lucid moments, you worry about the children. Is Catherine eating enough? Marta promised goat's milk as substitute, but will it sustain a newborn? Are Ellen and Peter still safely hidden? Will anyone remember to check on them if you don't recover? Delirium claims you frequently now in fevered dreams. You return to the convent, to your father's house, to the village square during your public punishment. Faces appear and dissolve. Mother Agnes with her cruel satisfaction, Father Bernard with his predatory smile, your own father turning away in shame, Catherine, small and still in the convent infirmary. Time loses meaning. Day blends into night and back again. Your body burns while somehow simultaneously feeling cold to the bone. The swellings grow, radiating pain with each heartbeat. Breathing becomes labored. Each inhalation a conscious effort. In one moment of clarity, you find Marta beside your pallet, her weathered face grave as she places a cool cloth on your forehead. The children, you manage to ask, your voice a cracked whisper, are safe, she assures you. The baby takes goat's milk well enough. The others help care for her. Relief floods through you, quickly subsumed by another wave of fever. If I don't, I'll see them to my sisters, Marta promises, understanding your unfinished thought. All 3, you have my word. It's enough. It has to be enough. You've done what you could in a world determined to break you at every turn. You've survived longer than anyone expected. You've helped others when you could barely help yourself. The fever rises again, carrying you back into delirium. This time, the visions are gentler. Green fields beneath spring sunshine, children laughing, a simple life unburdened by judgment or cruelty. Whether heaven's promise or your mind's final mercy, you welcome these peaceful images. Your breath rattles now, a sound you've heard too often from others. The end approaches, your body finally surrendering what your spirit never did. In your last conscious moment, you think of your daughter, hoping she somehow know you fought for her until the very end. That despite everything, you loved her enough to hope for a better world than the one you experienced. Then darkness, then peace. Your body, like so many others, receives no ceremony in death. No prayers are spoken. No grave is dug in the frozen earth. The few remaining healthy servants, overwhelmed by the constant work of disposing of plague victims, add your remains to a cart already piled with disease-ravaged corpses. The cart rumbles through snow-covered lanes to the cliffs overlooking the sea, where bodies can be disposed of without the laborious digging winter ground requires. Your remains tumble into the churning waters below, joining hundreds of others the plague has claimed. No marker will commemorate your existence. No stone will bear your name. Your brief life sold for ale money, abused by those who claimed to serve God, abandoned by family, and finally claimed by plague, leaves little visible trace on the world you depart, yet something remains. 3 children who might otherwise have perished. A promise from a kitchen cook to see them safely to a new home when spring arrives. Small mercies passed from hand to hand in darkness, continuing the chain you joined when you helped a starving boy outside convent walls. So when someone speaks romantically of medieval times, of knights and chivalry and noble quests, remember this other truth. Remember the unwanted daughters sold to convents. Remember the hungry children at manor gates. Remember the plague pits and unmarked graves. Remember the women who survived however they could in a world that valued them only for what could be taken from them. Sometimes it just sucked, and nothing sucked harder than being a forced nun in medieval England. But the children lived, and perhaps that's victory enough in a world where death claimed so many. Close your eyes now. Rest in the soft comfort of your bed, so different from stone floors and straw pallets. Feel the warmth of blankets, the support of your mattress, the safety of walls that shelter rather than imprison. And know that your struggles, whatever they may be, exist in a world where at least some lessons of history have been learned. Sleep now in peace and comfort that medieval women like you could only dream of.